Welcome back to HPP, the podcast that covers college basketball and the NBA draft inside and out. I am Rich Harris, and thank you for joining us again. Today, I'm joined by the usual crew, the Bay Area Bomber, Drew Barton, the Shot Doctor, Ayad Booney, and Jake Copestick, who is just Cope. Not basketball-related nickname. We need one for you. Doc Lou Allen will be joining us a little later to chat about the NBA. And we will also be joined by a special guest, Loyola Marymount's dynamic guard, Cam Shelton, who will be in this year's NBA draft class. Gentlemen, how you doing? Surviving without college basketball?
Barely. I was in the gym this morning going with our basketball team. Our men's team is starting to pick it up, back up their preseason stuff, and our women's team get going. So I'm finding ways to stay around hoops.
A little sad, you know.
Yeah, you always
now it's baseball and the pitch clock.
I haven't seen that yet.
Which I have zero interest in watching, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm not much of a baseball fan either.
Yeah,
but I today, as I was preparing the script, I was watching old games that I never got to. So I watched one game that was pre-Christmas. I forget which. I had 3 games on. I'm not watching them. I'm working and listening to them as I'm working. But yeah, so I listened to like 3 games that were all played in December or early January today. So. Jake, I know you were at a press conference, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So let's open up the college notebook, and we got a ton of stuff to talk about today. But let's first open up with our final thoughts on the Final Four. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, I mentioned this in my other podcast, anybody who said that FAU San Diego State wasn't going to draw a crowd, it wasn't going to be a good game, nobody had any interest. Well, you look like a total loser today who doesn't know what you're talking about and probably didn't watch any college basketball prior to March 1st.
Right.
I thought it was good. The championship game, I saw some people on Twitter saying, "Oh, this is why you don't want Cinderellas in the championship game. San Diego State doesn't stand a chance." UConn was just that good. They dominated everybody.
Right.
If you just would have put Gonzaga in that game, would people have said the same thing, or would they have just said, "Wow, UConn's really good"? So I thought it was a really good Final Four. First ever buzzer beater with the team that was losing. I mean, San Diego State for that game legitimately did not lead at all. Their first lead came after the buzzer sounded, which is crazy. We'd never seen that before. So I thought that it delivered like it does every year. March never disappoints. And contrary to what people thought about FAU, San Diego State ended up giving us one of the best finishes we've had in the tournament in recent memory.
Yep. What were your thoughts, Booney?
You know, I'm with Jake. I thought it was great. Florida Atlantic was that good. It seemed once they were up 14, they almost were looking at the scoreboard and were shocked. Oh, we're up 14. They couldn't believe it. We're just trying to hang on down the stretch. San Diego State tried to give that game right back to FAU, and FAU did everything they could to lose it. But give credit to San Diego State.
For this
UConn,
keep on chopping away.
I think one big thing with regard to UConn that I noticed in watching in the Final Four that really resonated myself and watching them most of the year, where they really got better on, was the defensive side of the ball. They could always score the ball, right? And they were putting this type of dominating performances when they did start the year 15-0. They got into Big East play. They were still scoring 70, 80, 90 points, but they were allowing 85, 90 points. And they got to the tournament and they really got in your dish, and they were San Diego State, Tennessee type physical on the defensive end. And they had plenty of scoring. And I think that was their big key in how they got better, and all the credit to Danny Hurley there.
Yeah. Agreed. Drew?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fellows are spot on. I mean, you know, I saw some guy on Twitter I think it was Will Compton. He's like an NFL guy. He does a lot of stuff with Barstool Sports, which is like a big media outlet. He made a comment, you know, on the tournament, kind of saying, you know, what Jake had said is like, oh, why was FAU there? Why was San Diego State there? And it's like, man, tell me you don't watch college basketball. That time you don't watch college basketball. FAU won 30 games this year.
Right.
You know, like they won 30 games, and
I think
their
they won.
conference,
I think they won 34 or 35 to be
I
exact.
saw that
Yeah,
same thing you saw, Drew.
Yeah, like to win 30 games at any level of college basketball, because we see the parity. I mean, we saw Alabama lose to San Diego State, so to win 30 plus games, they're a legit team. I mean, they had their teams were in the NIT finals and from their conference, and so yeah, it just kind of goes to show people don't know what they're talking about. And I mean, UConn was that good. UConn was a buzzsaw. People forget UConn beat Alabama by 20 earlier this year. They beat my team by damn near 30 plus 40. I mean, their closest margin of victory was 15 against a team that, in St. Mary's, that's a defensive focused team, and they still beat them by 15. I mean, it just goes to show the team that, they would have beat anybody in the country. You put anybody, especially from the Elite Eight on after that Zags game, particularly, and you could put any team in front of them, they would have beat them. So, I mean, credit to them for just being an awesome team, a well-coached team, and a well-constructed team. And if you don't think that a buzzer beater in the Final Four is entertaining and good basketball, then go watch your pitch clock baseball, I guess, because there's nothing more entertaining on TV.
Actually, the NBA announced today that Connecticut will play OKC in a play-in. So my thoughts were very similar to Booney's. The defense, I watched, I don't know how many Connecticut games this year, 20, 25, and early in the season, they did not throw people. They just outscored people. And yes, they blocked shots and they played good defense, but they didn't play the defense that they played in this tournament. And it seemed like everybody they played was just out of their game. It's just like they didn't know what to do with themselves. And, like it took San Diego State almost 30 minutes, to finally figure out, okay, we can't score inside. It's just ain't happening for us. We're going to have to take some mid-range jumpers. Butler's penetration was also good. That was something that they didn't really do much until, they made that run in the second half. But Miami, we're talking, a very, very good, offensive team, and they held them in the 50s. I think that Villanova was the last team in 2018, was the last team to beat everybody by double digits. And I don't think anyone's beaten every team. I think UConn is the first team to win every game by at least 15. So that's how good they were. They were dominant. And and I had, we talked about last week about how everybody got there. So, FAU, got caught a couple breaks, with the top seeds in their region going down. But even so, one of the things we talked about in our pre-tournament show was one of the keys you need from a team, if you're going to pick the Final Four, you need teams that can string 6 wins together. And who was better candidate than FAU? They had the best record in the country. And so you can't go with a team like Michigan State or Iowa that wins one, lose one, win one, lose one. They're not going to win the tournament because, it's just not going to happen. They would need incredible breaks. So I thought it was great. A great tournament, as always. As Jake said, it's always good.
Rich, can I throw one more thing in there really quick?
Sure.
And this is something that I think you keyed in on when you talk about, teams being able to win. And then you mentioned how FAU, caught some breaks, the high seeds. This is something we need to give more credit in college basketball, especially with mid-major programs. Winning the games you're supposed to win. I don't think we give enough credit to teams who just handle their business because they don't play in the flashiest conferences, because they don't play in the Big 12 or they don't play in the Big 10, the ACC. I hear this all the time as a Zags fan. At some point, I think teams need to get credit, though, for winning when they're supposed to and consistently winning when they're supposed to.
Sure.
Like you said, teams that can win 8, it is so hard. And we see the tournament. And we saw it in Purdue. They lost to a 16 seed. It is so hard to win just 2 or 3 games in a row, yet alone 6 as the competition, in theory, gets harder. And so I think we need to really start putting respect on some of these programs that come in with these really big records and, oh, they didn't play anybody. Their conference isn't great. Do you know how hard it is to not let that, get into your psyche and not play down to your competition night in and night out and win 33, 34 games? I just think that's something we need to give credit to. And that's why I think AFU, the disrespect is ridiculous. Them being a 9 seed, the reality is they probably were more in that, 5 to 6 range.
Oh, sure.
Minimum.
Especially if you look what happened in the NIT and in the CBI. I mean, they won the CBI. Yeah, that's a crap tournament, but they still won it. In both the final two, the final game was the number 2 team in the Conference USA against the number 3 team in Conference USA. And what did I learn from the NIT was that North Texas State probably could have did some serious damage in the NCAA tournament.
If Farley Dickinson can win a game in the tournament, I'm pretty sure North Texas or UAB could have won 1 or 2, depending on how the seeding will fall. I just think that's something we don't talk about enough, not us on the show, but just in the discourse of college basketball is like sustained success in not having letdown losses. You're going to lose, but not having those letdown losses is so goddamn hard. And so, credit to FAU, San Diego State for taking care of business.
Agreed. I mean, and here's what I don't get. Everybody talks about, the reason why they love March Madness is because the little guy gets a chance and everybody gets a chance and everyone's all excited, when Fairleigh Dickinson plays Purdue and whatever. And then when they make a run, then you're gonna complain. I mean, what that's the beauty of the tournament. Is the beauty of the tournament. That's why guys who are playing in the Horizon Conference bust their balls to get into that tournament because they know they can win a game or 2 and maybe with a break here and a break there, maybe they can win 3 or 4. So yeah, I just don't get it. I don't get it. It's all right, we'll move on. The best player in the tournament is I don't think there's much of an argument, was Adama Sanogo. Anyone disagree? So now the question I want to revisit that we talked about Sanogo, I don't know, a month or so ago. And we're very concerned about him being a viable NBA prospect. And the main reason I had was I didn't think he's the best perimeter defender or pick and roll defender. And he's not really a great shot blocker. And he's not really a great finisher. I know the synergy numbers say one thing, but I think, when you look at like his dunks and you compare them to some other bigs, they just don't match up. Also, his transition numbers, doesn't get a lot of baskets in transition, so he's not a great floor runner. So basically what we're talking about is athleticism there. There's no questioning his strength, his motor. Another thing Booney pointed out when we were having this discussion is sometimes how long he holds the ball when he gets it in the post. But Booney, did you notice in the tournament, he wasn't doing that as much? Yeah, I mean, sometimes you go 1,001, 1,002, but he wasn't, he actually had a couple of games where he's actually, had a fair number of assists. I think he had one game where he had 6 assists. So what are we thinking about Sanogo? Has our mind changed much about Sanogo as a pro prospect?
I was actually thinking of Drew when I was watching Sanogo. Drew made a hell of a analogy last week with Norchad or Mir and comparing him to Montrezl Harrell, right? And I don't know all of a sudden how Montrezl Harrell's become such a something we compare everybody to, but I see even Sanogo more of a Montrezl Harrell than a Norchad or Mir will be. He has a motor on him. I think he is going to get stronger. He's going to get more explosive. He has that same type of size. He's going to finish around the rim. He's going to be a rim runner. I like him. I like him more than I did. And I think that's a great analogy and a great comparison as far as who we can see him being as a pro.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely think there's still a lot for him to grow into. But he didn't have to guard a ton necessarily on the perimeter. I thought he at least they had, especially the championship game, that their ball screen defense was really good, even if he was just able to step out and not allow somebody to turn the corner.
Right.
So I say that's gotten better, but he has another year left, correct? I don't know if
he's a junior.
I don't know, like his stock's got to be, as high as it's been right now, but at the same time, like you still all right. So if he's only a junior, is that with or without the COVID year? Does he have 2 more years or just 1?
I believe he has 2. I believe he has 2.
His freshman year was 2020.
There's already a lot. There's a lot to like now. There's certainly a lot he can get better at. And look, he would still start over Klingon if he were to come back next year. So there's still a lot you can showcase. I think you come back for a year, but yeah, there's certainly a lot. He's got enough pools to like right now. But if you have 2 more years, why not at least use one of them and come back? You're still going to play starter minutes on a good team and a great conference and able to show off a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Drew.
I get it's kind of, I'm stuck in between because like Jake said, come back, be just an absolute force for 1 more year. But it's also like his stock will probably never be higher. I mean, you're coming off a national title game. You were the best player in a tournament that featured a lot of really good, particularly bigs, just a lot of really good bigs, Edie, Timmy, Trace, like a lot of really solid players there. And I mean, I definitely think that he's got to get a shot in the NBA. I mean, I think of not game-wise, but like, you have a guy like Kevon Looney who's carved out a niche with the Warriors, 6'9", strong, isn't an offensive, focal point, but rebounds, has a great motor. And do I think it's Sanogo, who is a solid free throw shooter? He obviously is he's not a 3-point shooter, but he shot close to 37% on 1.5 attempts per, just enough to be just to keep a defense honest.
And that's a stride he made this year. You always like to see players make strides.
Totally. I definitely think there's a role there. I mean, if Kevon Looney can become the starting center, do I think Sanogo can come be a solid, bench unit, second string kind of guy who's going to come in, defend just enough, space the floor just enough, to be viable? I think absolutely. And he's a winner. I mean, you can't say anything else. He's a winner. He showed up when they needed him to, faced down great defenses, great opponents. It was an absolute force. I don't think he can go wrong. I think if he comes out, it's probably the highest his stock will be. But if he comes back 1 more year, they're going to be, probably pretty loaded. I can't imagine too many guys on that team outside of maybe Hawkins leaving this year. So I think he can't really go wrong.
They pretty much could all come back if they
could all come back. But I think there's an NBA role for him. And I think when you look at a guy like a Kevon Looney and he's been able to make a really nice role for himself, they're the same height, kind of similar build. They're not super athletic, but they're strong. They're sound. I like Sanogo. I think there's a shot for him.
I don't know how easy this is to do. I know it can be done to at least to some degree, but I think obviously foot speed, and I think his defense did look better in the tournament. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is his vertical explosiveness. I've seen him miss a lot of bunnies. Like I said, he doesn't get a lot of dunks. He doesn't get a lot of shot blocks. So if there was any way for him to just add a little so he could just swat a few more shots away, and if he could, throw down a few more dunks instead of, there was one game where he just drove me crazy with how many bunnies he missed. But yeah, I mean, best player in the tournament. I don't know if I agree that his stock this is as best as it's going to be, because I think it's probably might be the best it's going to be in public opinion, but not necessarily in NBA opinion. So the public's probably going to like him and say, there's probably a lot of people don't study it like we do and say, oh yeah, he's going to be a great NBA player. I think, there are definitely things he could improve upon. And if he can, he might be there. I will say, he would definitely give Joel Embiid a run for his money if we could measure how much the two of them sweat. Because I think Sanogo's the leading sweater in the nation. All right. So now we're going to review, before we move on to all kinds of interesting topics, we're just going to, at this point, we're just going to review how we did in our postseason contest. They were we had all kinds of things going on in the postseason. We finally got a chance to tally it all up. We had our conference tourney picks. And then we had our bracket contest. And then we made more picks at the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. And then we made more picks at the Final Four. So in the conference tourney, Jake was the best. In the bracket contest, I was the best because I had UConn winning it all. Sweet 16, Booney got it. And then in the Final Four, Tyler went 4 for 4 with his selections, and he got that. Now, I contacted the home office, and they told me that you needed to have 41 total possible points to qualify for the overall postseason championship. Tyler, I'm sorry, this is coming from the home office. You are disqualified because you only have 40 total possible points. And that means the postseason championship goes to me. We have percentages here, but we were picking like games like weeks ahead of time. So you really can't go by win-loss percentage. But I earned 56% percentage of the possible points. Jake had 46. Booney had 32, Drew had 26, and of course, Tyler, who was disqualified by the home office, had 100%. So, all right, so now we can move on to more important matters. I know our listeners were just dying to know who won. All right, so.
For those listening, I'm not as bad as I sound. I didn't have that many chances to pick. If you look at my actual bracket that we did, I think outside of Rich, I finished like 3rd or 4th. And I was on the collective
bracket. You finished 4th. You finished just out of the money and in our bracket pool.
Yes. Put some respect on my name here, folks. I'm not that bad.
So that went to actually in our bracket. Oh, I should mention that in our pool that we did together. Our collective pool that we picked on the show won. I finished 2nd. And a friend of mine finished 3rd, and Drew finished 4th. But here's the interesting thing. We finished nationally because you could also enter a national contest, which had approximately 1.5 million people in it. And we finished approximately 1,414th. Now, that doesn't sound so good, but when you compare it to 1.5 million, that puts us at the 99.9th percentile. Wow. So we did collectively, our bracket was pretty damn good. So only that means that roughly 1.4 how many million people were worse than us. So yeah, we did pretty well. All right, good job, gentlemen. All right, so now on to more important news. Let's talk about the latest NBA early entries. Most of these guys, I should clarify this. Most of these guys are being projected as being in the draft to stay. I've been doing this long enough to know that those messages that everybody puts on their nice little postcard or whatever you want to call it, and they thank their school and they thank their coaches and all that stuff, and they say goodbye, and then next year they're back. This is not unusual. And so people kind of like draw conclusions, but the only way you really know is whether they definitively say so or not. I forget whose I read today. Maybe it was Wendell Green's, who's being projected as not coming back, but he doesn't definitively say that. And so it all depends on the agent he signs with. Even if he signs with an agent, he doesn't have to go through the draft process. So we're projecting, most people are saying these guys are in the draft to stay, but it's not 100%. So we'll start off. I kind of put these guys in groups, and I want to get your opinion on the first 3. And they are Ricky Council, Kobe Jones, and Derek Lively. And I think as a group, I think it's very, very safe to say all 3 will be drafted. But at the same time, I'm wondering if they should all stay for another year and couldn't improve their draft spot. Any opinions there?
I think Ricky Council is going to be an NBA star. I think
but he can't shoot.
He believe it or not, he's the best shooter on Arkansas's team. It has gotten better.
Devo Davis is.
It has gotten better. His mid-range has gotten better. I think he will end up being a shooter that is good enough where that will keep the defense honest. But he is the best athlete, maybe him and Lively, on that list right now.
Oh, I mean, Ricky Council might be the best athlete in the draft.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love Ricky Council. That's the one name for me that sticks out. I think he's an NBA superstar. I think he's going to be something else.
Eric Lively is the one that concerns me the most in terms of, or that I think should come back. I think if he goes now, he's going to get drafted based on he started to really flash that defensive upside as the season wore on. But my thing is, we talked about this in the last show. What is NBA development like? I feel if he goes now, he's going to be pigeonholed to just some rim running, shot blocking. That's kind of your role. I think if he goes to Duke, puts another year in, continues to develop that offensive game, and then comes back and he can put those two pieces together, I think he'd be a nightly double-double threat in the NBA. I think if he goes now, he's going to never get a chance to sharpen that offensive game, is going to be forced into just being a defensive guy, which is fine. But when you have so much more upside, I think it would be a disservice to his potential career. I think he could go from a guy who could contend as a really great defender in the NBA, double-double machine, to a guy who might just be kind of like, okay, 8 points here, 8 boards here, maybe a block and a half a night. I think he's going to definitely cap his potential if he goes now.
Well, what I'm going to say right now is I think he's going to fall out of the lottery as it stands.
Yes, I agree.
And in knowing that we don't have the greatest freshman class coming in, I'm going to be so bold as to say he could be the number 1 draft pick next year.
I agree with that.
If he developed an offensive game, if he could be more than just a dunker and a shot blocker. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I'm saying with all these guys, and with Kobe Jones, okay, Kobe had a rough tournament and he really kind of petered out, like the whole team did. This all seemed to run out of gas. And Kobe didn't have a good tournament and he didn't really play very well in the Big East tournament. And I'm just thinking, he's not a household name. He's not he's not even a 15 point. Well, maybe he is. I don't know what he averages per season, but you know what I'm saying? He wasn't the leading scorer on his own team. He's more of a do everything guy. And I'm afraid that he might fall into the second round. And now he's a junior. And I think he's on the younger side for a junior. And I'm just thinking, with another year, he could just develop his offensive game a little more, draw more attention to himself. I do think he's going to be drafted. I do think it's going to be first round, but I think it's going to be toward the end of the first round.
I see
maybe
Colby,
even early second.
I see Colby a lot like a Josh Hart.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice, Booney. Very nice, Booney. Any thoughts here, Jake, on those 3?
Yeah, I agree with Drew on Lively. I think if he comes back, not only is he going to play a lot more minutes, but also this gives him a potential chance to prove that he can stay healthy for a full year with all the injuries he had that kind of slowed him getting started here. Not only the rebounding, the defense, the dunking, but hey, if he can keep at what he was doing passing wise in the short roll and continue to be a guy that can do that and add that to his game and add a little bit of facilitating to his game, I think it'd be huge for him. I think he's got a lot more to prove, and he could really solidify himself as a lottery pick and beyond, like you said, if he were to come back for another year.
Right. All right, so the next 3 guys on the list, as I said, I kind of grouped these in fall into the category of what the hell are they thinking? And that's Wendell Green Jr. of Auburn, Armand Franklin of Virginia, and Jacob Toppin of Kentucky. Green is infamous on this show because we rag on him all the time. Franklin, just kind of like a so-so player who really didn't have much of a better year this year than he did as a sophomore at Indiana. He's a senior now, so he could play his 5th year. And then Toppin's got to be making. I mean, he's on the TV with Lily. from AT&T. I mean, he's got to be making a decent buck. What is his hurry? Again, I just think that I think all three of these guys aren't going to be drafted. Anybody disagree?
Well, Kentucky has a whole lot of guys coming in, so maybe that's part of it.
Yeah. That's always a problem with Kentucky. But he wouldn't have to go to Kentucky. He could go to, I don't know, somewhere. He could go play for Pitino in New York.
Franklin and Green got me scratching my head.
Yeah, Green is the biggest one because I just don't see it. I don't see it. And apparently all three of these guys are staying in the draft. All right, so no other comments there. So the next four guys kind of fall into that category where I have mixed feelings. And those are Trace Jackson Davis, Marcus Sasser, Mike Miles, and Seth Lundy. And if you're not a huge college basketball fan, Seth Lundy plays for Penn State. Just briefly, with Jackson Davis, I understand that his stock's probably not going to be any higher unless he displays a jump shot. We know he has everything else. So is this a case where he doesn't think and that's why I think he's still probably going to fall into the second round or, at best late first round, because he really has not really displayed much of a jump shot, though he is a solid free throw shooter. So Mike Woodson, is this a case where Mike Woodson's just not going to let him do it? And if he comes back, he's going to be doing the same thing that he did last year over and over again. And if that's the case, if he doesn't think Woodson would give him the freedom to shoot from the outside, then yeah, I get it. Sasser had a good year, All-American, but again, he wasn't stellar, and I think we're looking at second round. I think the same goes for Mike Miles. Miles' jump shot is still in question, and he's not the biggest of guys. So in Seth Lundy, I'm not even sure if Seth's going to get drafted. But again, I get it because Penn State has just been totally overhauled, and there's nothing to come back to. So he would almost have to transfer to a different school if he wanted to be relevant. So you guys have any thoughts about what I just said or about these guys staying in the draft?
Marcus Sasser is a player that I go back and forth on all the time. I like Houston because I just love the intensity in which they play and in which they're coached. And spoiler alert, I put him as a first team All-American for our show because I had a hard time. The guards this year, there were good guards, but there was no real separation. So I just he was on arguably the top team coming in. But I think Marcus Sasser, I think the role that he's developed with Houston as kind of the only source of offense, I think kind of overrated him now as he's been there. Is that we value him so highly because he's, the best scorer on a good team that's been a 1 seed and made runs. But is he really that great is he that great offensively to the point, or is he just the best offensive player out of a group of guys that are
And here's the thing: if he really is an All-American, he could show it next year in the Big 12.
Exactly,
and so he's avoiding that opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the 3-point percentage is nice, but the overall field goal percentage is okay. It's not great. He's not a great playmaker. He's more of I have the ball in my hands a lot, so I kind of dictate a lot of the action. He's not a great rebounder. I don't know. I feel like my opinion of Sasser is I used to love him when he was younger, when Houston kind of first blew up on the scene when he was, I think, a sophomore. And then he got hurt, so we kind of really weren't able to see him. And now it's as I watch him this year, I just go, are you really the best guy, or are you just the best guy given the this team you're surrounded with? Nobody else can really score at will, so you kind of get that free reign. So does he get drafted? I think so. Just the name, the shooting, but yeah, I think he's more of a second round guy at best.
Right, and that's my concern with these guys.
Yeah.
I think everybody but Lundy will be drafted. Yeah. And Lundy might even be drafted with good workouts because he is a great shooter and he is a good athlete and he has nice size. But I'm just thinking that, in a difference, they still have things that they haven't proven and they still have more to prove. And if they want to be a first round pick, they might not get there this year.
I think Mike Miles has an NBA gear.
I agree. I agree.
Something else. I think he's going to be a really good pro. Yes, he needs to work on his jumper, but his mid range is right there. We saw him knocking that down in the tournament. He gets to the hole. He gets to the foul line. He's physical, and like I said, he has a gear on him that I haven't seen in college basketball this year.
Yeah, he shot the ball really well his last stretch, though. Like that's a 3-ball. He was shooting really well from the Big 12 championship through the Zags game, though. He shot really
and off the bounce too,
yeah.
But here's the thing: the last time I looked, and I haven't looked in a while. We're going to redo our rankings, and we're going to have our own mock draft in a couple of weeks. But last time I looked, Mike Miles wasn't even, listed on a lot of mock drafts. I don't know if that's changed, but so yeah. He is for us, we have him in second round territory. Early second round territory. So
he's an undersized slasher too at 6'2". That's not the tall.
So Jake, you have any thoughts on these four?
Yeah, I totally agree with Boney. Like Mike Miles' ability to get downhill and get by guys and get to the foul line is huge. He just has to prove that jump shot, because there's been times where, and it's not just him, it's the entire TCU team that was one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country. People just pack the paint. They don't allow you just to get to the rim, or they don't even allow you really to get into the paint just because they're playing their shell so tight. But he was able to knock down a lot of shots. You look at the Arizona State game, you look at that Gonzaga game, like off the bounce, he's able to hit tough shots. He's shown that he can be a tough shot maker just consistently, like from three, especially off the catch. He's got to be able to prove that. I'm curious to see your thoughts on this. Do you think he's maybe not even in some mock drafts? Like, to me, and not that I don't think he's a great player and that he can and should get drafted, but do you think this is a name that people like almost didn't really fully expect to come out this year? I thought he would, if he came out, he would at least maintain his college eligibility. He's not even doing that. It seems like he's just in.
Right. That's a possibility. That's one thing.
The water last year, though, didn't he?
Well, no, I'm not sure. Booney. But Jake, you bring up a good point. That's one thing we don't do. We don't kind of like try to project. Like we have guys on our draft board we know, like in our top 200, that we know are not going to be in this draft. Okay. But I wait until the window's officially closed, and then I pull them off the draft board, because you never know when somebody's going to change their mind or what's going to happen. And we'll actually, when we get down to the transfer list, I'll give you a good example of a guy that is nowhere near drafting, but I think he's so talented that he deserves to be listed on our top 200. But yeah, that's a good point, Jake. It might be just that. I know a lot of people in some, like ESPN, I know they like do the next year's draft too, which to me is insane. Let's worry about one draft at a time. But so they'll have like say, so if they thought Miles wasn't going to go, then they'd have Miles in next year's draft. To me, that's just like way too complicated, but all right. So the last group is interesting. And they all are maintaining their college eligibility. And the first one is a potential lottery pick. And I found this out that he was doing this when I was trying to set up an interview. So I was talking to a team official at Ohio State, and they said, Bryce isn't doing any interviews while he's training for the NBA draft. And we were talking about his injury and whatever. And he said, then he'll make up his mind whether he's coming back. And I'm like, he hasn't made up his mind? He's like, no. And like, he might come back. And I'm like, wow. So I was really surprised to hear that. Very happy to hear that. I always like to see, I'd rather see these guys develop in college basketball than in the G League. So yeah. The next guy, Mike Shavajamps, if I'm saying that right, we always call him Mongolian Mike for Dayton. I also was trying to arrange an interview with him, and his SID tells me that he told me that Mike was staying in the draft. I did some more research and I found out he's not necessarily staying in the draft, but if he does come back, if he does not stay in the draft, he's going in the transfer portal. But right now he's leaning toward staying in the draft, which I don't get. I mean, he was a bench player. He looked like a freshman, very much like a freshman for much of the year. He couldn't stay out of foul trouble, as a wing. So, and then, Jake, you probably want to talk about the last guy, and that's Jordan Dingle, the explosive guard from Penn, who just declared, I believe, today.
Yeah, so it came out he was gonna declare while maintaining his eligibility, where he does have another year at Penn if he wants it. He got Ivy League Player of the Year this year, overtaking Tosan Uwoma, who won it last year and was a big star in the tournament, of course, with Princeton making the Sweet 16. Second leading scorer in Division I this year, behind Antoine Davis. It was Antoine Davis. Jelly Walker's up there too. Like he's one of the leading scorers in America. He can score at every single level. He's got a huge upper body. He's very, very strong. He's got a unique body type. He's got a big, strong upper body. You look at his arms, like he's big, but down low he's kind of slender, but he's got terrific vertical. I mean, he can get up and dunk the ball. He can get up and finish through contact and get above guys.
He's a big time dunker.
Yeah, he can score at every single level. He can cut hard to the basket, dunk on somebody, finish a layup. He's got a great floater going to his right. He can pull up from anywhere on the court. He can shoot the three very well. He can get the spots and pull up. But that floater is awesome, and he's got terrific touch around the basket, especially in the paint, which is huge. Now, the next step for him is he's a guy that's got the ball in his hands a lot. He's got to cut down on his turnovers. He's got to be a better facilitator and better defender. We know he's got all the scoring, bag and arsenal that you want. But can he be a true point guard? Can he facilitate? And is he going to be a plus defender? Those are what the questions are with this guy. But in terms of scoring, he's got an NBA bag and he's got an NBA scoring ability before.
Do you know if he's put his name in the portal?
He has not. Last I heard anything about that, because I know some guys do that. They're like, I'm going to declare for the draft and put my name in the portal.
Yeah,
but I might come back. I haven't seen anything like that yet. Last I heard anything about this was at the Ivy League tournament after they lost in the semifinals to Princeton, and seemed like him and the coach and Clark Slacker and some of those other guys are excited to run it back next year and play. So I think it's draft for him, and if it's not that, I think he's going to come back.
Is he a senior or a junior?
He's a junior, so I believe what the deal is here is he took like a gap year when COVID happened and there was no sports being played. I think that's like kind of like a common practice almost, I guess, at the Ivy League schools is if the guys want to maintain a year of eligibility, they just take a gap year and they come back. Or they did when there was no sports and then they came back. So I think technically in terms of like career-wise, I think he's technically going to be a senior, but eligibility-wise, he has another year to come back.
To Penn.
Yes.
And then he would have another year to play somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if he wants it. I don't know if he would do that.
See, I thought he was done at Penn. That's why I asked about the portal.
Yeah, he's got one more year. He can play next year.
Right. He definitely can play at a big six.
Oh, 100%.
Power six conference.
And I would imagine people probably dangle a lot of NIL money in front of his feet.
Right.
Yeah, he's that good. He can definitely elevate a high major.
Anybody else have any comments on these three guys that we brought up that are maintaining their eligibility?
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, buddy.
I think Sensabaugh something else. I think he's going to be just unbelievable. I mean, 6'6", 235, 240. I can't remember we've ever seen somebody with his type of build and his skill set in basketball for a long, long time. I can't think of anyone right now off the top of my head. He has some quickness. He has strength. He's 19 years old. He's going to be a guard that can post you up. He can shoot the perimeter three. I think he's going to be a scoring machine.
Yep.
Big Sensabaugh guy. And I think that's the question right now with regard to maintaining eligibility. How far in that top 10 is he going to be? Is he going to be somewhere in the 6, 7, 5, or is he going to sneak down to 12, 13? And I think that's the decision where he's making right now.
Interesting. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, because I do think if he comes out, he's a lottery pick.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, totally, for sure. Yeah, I think I would love selfishly as a college basketball fan for him to come back and just be a force. I mean, I know they had that horrible losing streak of games where they were just losing left and right. And, you know, he was, for the most part, pretty consistent there. He had a couple bad games, a couple great games. I would love to see Sensabaugh come back because I think more guys should understand the value of sharpening your skills in college instead of wasting away in the G League. But, man, if Mongolian Mike, this is so – who is giving him this advice? I mean, I'm just genuinely curious who's in his ear saying you should enter the draft. Right. At no point this year did I think this guy looked remote. He wasn't even one of the best. They lost their 2 starting guards who were 2 of their best players coming in, and he still couldn't separate and elevate his game when minutes were to be had and opportunity was to be had. And I don't think it's because he's a bad player. I just think he's a young kid. I'm sure some of the transition from coming across the world to play, there's a culture shock element, but there is no way he is remotely NBA ready. He did not score in double figures. From December 7th, I think it was, I was looking this up earlier, to the end of the year, he didn't score in double figures. And against VCU in their final game of the season, he had 0. So that's the lasting image teams are going to have of you. And you're not a great playmaker. You were not like a standout. You didn't do anything at a standout level. And you're going to stay in the draft. If he stays in the draft, I wouldn't be shocked if he went undrafted.
Oh, and he won't be.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he went undrafted.
The chances of him being drafted are 0.
0. And so whoever's giving advice, look, if you want to transfer, that's fine. But this is,
I don't even know if he can make it in the G League.
No. He's because he doesn't have physically and mentally, he's just not ready. He's not
skinny,
ready.
He's skinny, and it's just I mean, and I just couldn't believe how he would always, as a wing, always be in foul trouble. It was incredible how quickly he would pick up fouls. I mean, he would step onto the court off the bench and he'd get a foul call within 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think there's just an element of like it's just basketball it's a different breed over here, even at the college level and the youth level. So like, there's no shame in that. And there were flashes, there were moments where I thought, hey, okay, he looked good. He had some moments, he contributed. He had a couple games where I thought, okay, he was an impact player for them. And I was high on Dayton this year. And once they lost Kobe and Malachi Smith, their season was done. But yeah, there's no way this dude is ready for the draft. You want to transfer, fine, but whoever's giving you advice, man, fire that dude because he's doing you dirty.
Yeah. The best thing he did this year, where he showed the most promise was as a passer. But we knew that. We knew that.
Yes.
He was a point forward coming in. And and I loved, what little I saw from him. I loved him, and I thought he might be a big time impact freshman, but I quickly saw that he had a long way to go. So, all right. So here's a very interesting list. And I'm kind of curious what you guys thought. These are guys who have yet to declare. Anthony Black of Arkansas, probable lottery pick. Cam Whitmore, Villanova, probable lottery pick. Kyle Filipowski, Duke, probable lottery pick. Chris Murray of Iowa, most likely a first rounder. Jaime Jaquez has a chance to be a first rounder. Jalen Wilson, second rounder. Zach Edey, second rounder. Boogie Ellis. Now, I was told by someone close to Boogie that Boogie was turning pro. Have yet to see it. Dwayne Cohill of Youngstown. He said on our show he was turning pro. Still haven't seen it. And you guys tell me Drew Timme has said he's turning pro. I haven't seen anything official.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Timme. I mean, he followed up with I forget who he was talking to at the Naismith Awards or the ceremony. He seemed to double down that he wasn't planning on coming back. So unless it's some long running April Fool's joke, by all accounts, he's not coming
I haven't
back,
seen an official.
Yeah, I would have assumed because he made that comment before the tournament that he wasn't coming back. So I assumed after their loss there would have been a letter within a couple of days. But I mean,
I was also told by somebody at Kansas that Jalen Wilson was definitely turning pro. Haven't seen it. So what do you guys make of this list? I mean, is there any chance some of these guys are staying?
I think Edey will stay.
Yeah, I do
Edey
too.
stays.
I do too.
I think Edey stays.
I agree.
Yeah, I think Edey stays. Cam Whitmore's interesting to me because I feel like we already would have seen something by now. I mean, I still think he's going to declare. I don't know what the official weight is because he didn't play in their NIT game at Liberty, which they lost.
Yeah, he had some kind of eye injury or something.
And then I read something. He just signed like an NIL deal, which I guess you can't really like make an assumption there. Like, sure, it could mean he's coming back to school. It also means that he's able to do whatever the hell he wants. He can now get paid. I mean, you can get paid either way, but he can go to the pros and make that. But I just think that when you have a guy that oozes talent like that, and he does some things that not many people can do on the floor. Like they played Penn. I think he missed the layup and followed up his own miss with a one-handed dunk. Like he does some things where it just warrants not coming back to school at all, and not thinking twice about it. But it certainly would be interesting.
The one thing I thought with Whitmore and Filipowski, especially Whitmore, is Villanova has a tradition of not having one and dones, and I thought it was very unusual for Villanova to end up with a one and done. And I'm just wondering, maybe he's just fine where he is. And I will say, as much as I think he probably will be a lottery pick, we didn't see the best of him this year.
Oh, he showed a lot of good flashes. He just needs
right, but he also was also invisible, and I put that more on Kyle Neptune more than anything else. I just think Kyle Neptune misused him.
Yeah, they got to generate more looks for him, because another thing is he just took too many bad shots that were
right. But that's what they relegated.
Like,
that's what they relegated him to do.
Yeah, which shouldn't be the case. He's an explosive athlete and dunker. So if you can get him cutting to the basket,
right.
But try and generate some more looks for him. The guy's so strong. Like, it's just hard to stay in front of him because he's probably just going to bump you out of his way. He's so strong, and he's got an NBA body already. But his taking shots out of the offense sometimes, and then there was a couple times where I even heard it on the broadcast, because Steve Lapis would usually do the Nova games, and he would say, like, look, like, there's little things like getting back in transition and pointing out where a shooter is, boxing somebody out who you're a better athlete than. There's just very little things that aren't a cause for concern going up a level. It's just that, hey, you're not in high school anymore. You're now playing D1 in front of better guys. And sometimes I didn't think the motor was there 100% of the time. Again, not like a long-term concern, but you get acclimated another year to the college game. You dominate a little bit more. They have some guys leaving. He'll be able to step into a bigger scoring role. I mean, I don't think it's from like a standpoint of how he'll be used. I guess it's not a bad idea to come back. It just doesn't make sense for me. Like, you're going to be a lottery pick, maybe a top 10 pick. I don't know what the deal is with.
Well, but if you're making good money, if you're making and you enjoy the college experience, and maybe one of your goals was always to like be in the NCAA tournament or maybe go to the Final Four. I'm just wondering if that's like what Filipowski's thinking. I came to Duke to win. I came to Duke to win a national title. I didn't come close because we see other players that aren't as good as him on Duke declaring already, but he hasn't. So I'm wondering, is he thinking, I want to win a title with Duke? Or
that's the one guy I want to see stay in, because he may bring back that D to Duke. He looks like it feels like he has some unfinished business there. They have another great recruiting class. He had a great second half of the year. From December on, he was something else. He was playing with an unbelievable passion.
Well, that's the thing I love about him. He has an edge to him.
He does. So
he's a competitor, and that's why I'm thinking he might stay. He might. I didn't do what I came here to do.
I agree.
I was going to say the same thing about. That's the only thing about Black too, is like he's. I think that kid's wired differently,
right?
And I think that all three of these freshmen, I think, are all Black and Whitmore are lottery picks in my mind. I think Whitmore's a top 10 pick. And I think Kyle's a first round lock if he comes out. But all three of them, I think there's still just enough that they didn't show that they come back. When we know Anthony Black was, can he score more efficiently? Can he shoot the ball? Cam is, can he string together a full season of that potential? Kyle, can he be a more efficient shooter? Can he really carry the team? If those three come back, Cam would surprise me, but Kyle and Anthony Black, I wouldn't put it past them. I think those two are wired differently, and there's enough meat left that they left on the bone in college. They might come back for one more go around.
Right. Kind of like Miles Bridges did with Michigan State.
State, yeah.
And he wasn't getting any money. He just did it for the love of Michigan State or Izzo or whatever. See, with Whitmore, Villanova barely scratched the surface. You have one of the best players in the country, and you just have him standing on the 3-point line for like seemingly, hour after hour. And, I felt like, driving to Philly and punching Neptune right in the nose. It's like, give him the ball, enough of this. He was so much more talented than anybody else in that team. Justin Moore, maybe when he's healthy, still not in the same class, but yeah. Anthony Black, though, I'm wondering how many people are saying in draft circles or maybe even in his ear, dude, you can't shoot. They're not going to take you high in the draft. You got to learn to shoot before you go into the draft. That's what Booney was saying last week. How many other people are saying that? Maybe that's why Anthony Black hasn't declared.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. The shooting is a big issue. We'll see what happens. Still a little early. When is the deadline?
Oh, it's a ways. I'll have to check into that. Maybe you guys can do that as I move on to our transfer portal news. So it's top the list, and this came hot off the press this afternoon. Kerr Kriisa, of all places, is transferring to West Virginia. And I'm like, what? Kerr Kriisa, you think of as an offensive, free-flowing, free spirit, and going to a regimented kind of coach like Bob Huggins. You know where I thought Kriisa might land? Gonzaga.
I thought he was going to go to Xavier.
I thought he would go to Gonzaga, but yeah, Xavier would have been a good fit too.
Miller.
But not West Virginia. What is going on? Kerr Kriisa in Virginia. It doesn't seem like it's a good marriage.
I hate it. I think that's a terrible fit. I'm also not a big Kerr Kriisa fan. I think he's just as liable to shoot you out of games and be so loose with the basketball that he turns it over at the most inopportune time or just starts jacking shots. So I'm not a Kerr Kriisa guy in general. But I can't imagine Bob Huggins, who's going to want to play sound, fundamental defensive basketball, is going to want to put the ball in this guy's hands for extended periods of time. Unless Kerr Kriisa is going to be like their sixth man, shock trooper offensive bench guy for spurts, which isn't going to happen. I don't know. I think this is a terrible fit.
Yeah, I don't love it either. But again, I agree with you. I'm just not a Kerr Kriisa guy. I don't think you can win a championship with him. You've seen the last 2 years in big time games where he's been a guard that they have to rely on. And I know last year, obviously not this past season, but the one before, it's easier when you have a Dalen Terry and a Benedict Mathurin to kind of like shoulder the load a little bit, but they didn't have great guards this year and they couldn't rely on him. He's just not a guy I think you can win with. And then to go play in a defensive system where he's probably going to turn the ball over a little bit. And if he's doing that and he's not making shots, I don't really know how effective of a terrific defender he's going to be in the way that Bob Huggins likes to play. So I don't love the fit, but I think more so I'm just really not a fan of Kerr Kriisa.
Right. All right, so the next person on our transfer list is somebody I'm like thinking, what took so long? We've been saying on this show for about 2 months that Jaden Bradley seemed to be affected by what went down off the court in Alabama, and I thought he would be like one of the first names in the portal. He announced yesterday that I believe it was, Anybody surprised that Jaden Bradley's leaving Alabama and what might be a toxic environment for him?
Not one bit.
I think this is going to be really good for him.
Yeah.
He needs a fresh start more than anything.
Yeah. I'm gonna sound like a paranoid conspiracy theorist guy, but no, I tell you what, after talking to some Alabama reporters, when that issue was hot, and of course we're talking about the Brandon Miller ordeal. They almost seemed, even the guy we had on the show, Booney was with me for that interview. He almost seemed nervous. He almost seemed like he was afraid to talk. Yeah. And I just wonder how much pressure is on Jaden Bradley to keep his mouth shut. Just a thought. Maybe I'm reading way too much. Maybe I watch too many mysteries on TV. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think there's some fairness to that. Like, you go through this terrible ordeal as a team. The entire country is like dialing in on you, and you're trying to probably balance the I probably feel like crap. Like, I would assume that there's a guilty conscience. Just like, I'm around, like, this sucks. It's a toxic environment. It's a toxic situation. I'm heavily involved in this. But then you're balancing but this is the team, and I can't be a snitch, and I got to just go along with the motion. I can't be, ragging on my guys. I can't be part of the scrutiny. And that probably weighs on people. Like, he's trying to balance that conscience of do I say anything and be outspoken, but then I look like I'm turning on my guys, or do I just keep my mouth shut and just kind of let this blow over?
And of course, he hasn't said a peep about it, but maybe he wants to say a peep about it. Maybe he's got things to get off his conscience. Or maybe not. Maybe we're reading way too much into this. But my gut feeling
surprised me.
My gut feeling has always been that there's more to this story than we know, and if anybody knows it, it's him. So we shall see. All right, so here's some more interesting guys, and I'm going to just read off the list, and you guys can let me know your thoughts. We have LJ Cryer, who also put his name in, keeping his eligibility in the draft. Aaron Estrada, I believe, has done the same. Trayvon Mark has done the same of Houston. MJ Rice is just transferring. And this is the guy I mentioned who's on our top 200 that I think is oozing with talent, but there's no chance he would get, well, I won't say there's no chance, but he's not really on anybody's draft radar. And that's Ugana Onyenso, the skinny 18-year-old. He's not 19. He's an 18-year-old freshman center of Kentucky. And when Shigwe was out early in the season, this guy got some minutes. And oh my God, is he fast. He is like a 7-foot long shot blocking machine that can move like I don't know what. Now, if he puts on more muscle, that might affect his speed. But man, is this guy fast. I mean, I think he'd be the best shot blocker in the country if he got regular minutes. But obviously, he's only 18 years old. He won't turn 19 until the end of September. And, of course, Calipari always has extra talent laying around that just wastes away on his bench. And he's transferring, and the team that gets him a couple years from now is going to have an All-American, in my opinion. Hunter Dickinson, speaking of All-Americans, he made honorable mention on our All-American team, which we'll talk about later. Tyler Perry, North Texas, led North Texas to the NIT championship. Midcourt Max Asmus of Oral Roberts is in the portal. And here's an interesting one, Harrison Ingram, who, now this is a 5-star guy who had a really disappointing freshman season and got worse as a sophomore under Jarrett Haas this year. How is that possible that a 5-star gets worse in the second season? Only Jarrett Haas could do that. And lastly, and this Jake's gonna have to speak on this guy because I know absolutely nothing other than his stats aren't overly impressive, and that's Jonathan Pierre from D2 Nova Southeastern. And according to Jake, over 80 schools have contacted him. You sure he just doesn't have a really cute sister? Because his stats aren't that great.
I look, here's the thing. I'm not going to admit, I watch D2 hoops. I don't know anything about him either. When I saw that 80 schools were contacting him, and then there's just more that are continually coming out. I've never seen a list like that. I followed the portal report on Twitter, and they even said, like, we're about to release the longest list we ever have. And I'm thinking, well, who could this be for? You've already released LJ Cryer. You've already released Hunter Dickinson. I thought Hunter Dickinson was the best transfer in the portal's history. And then you have LJ Cryer. You have a dynamic scoring guard who's ready to play right now. You can plug and play him as a starter. He'll be great. He might have been one of the best portal guys to ever enter. And then it's like, yeah, Nova Southeastern wins the D2 National Championship, and Jonathan Pierre is the guy who's got this huge list. Never saw one that big. I had to like thread the tweets and add a second one because there were so many schools that were interested in him.
Dickinson's supposed to go to Kentucky.
So here's the thing. Yeah, I could totally see that.
I mean, Twitter's super reliable too. You know?
So Shigwe isn't going anywhere. How's that going to work?
That's a good combo right there.
Me personally, I think he's going to go to Georgetown because he's from the DMV, and Kudus Wahab just transferred. Not that he would eat at his minutes, but now it's like, not only is that a fit because Hunter Dickinson's from the DMV, but now it's a need for Ed Cooley. Like, hey, my center's gone. Bradley Azawiro's gone too, as well as most of that team from last year is transferring. So now it's not like, hey, you're from here, come play closer to home. Now it's like, well, I need you here. And you could dominate and play very well in the Big East too. I
think he would look fabulous in a Villanova uniform. I'm just saying, blue seems to be his color.
And then, I thought you had
the map
Ace Baldwin. Ace Baldwin's supposed to go to Penn State.
Yeah,
that situation's weird because I would think Ace Baldwin can certainly make the move up there and play in the Big Ten.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Jalen DeLoach is being pursued by San Diego State. He's being pursued by Mike Rhodes at Penn State, but also apparently Ryan Odom is doing a good job of trying to keep him there. That's another guy to keep your eye on. But it's funny you bring that up, Rich, because like I said, Hunter Dickinson went to DeMatha with Justin Moore. So I think it's fun to think about, but I don't know if he would choose Villanova. I guess
I doubt he would go to Maryland because he was really pissed off that they didn't really recruit him.
Now you have a new guy in there too. Well, that's Mark Durgin for you, of course.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of this.
I think Aaron Estrada is a sleeper on this list. I think he's a legitimate power 6 guard myself.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really play a ton when he was at Oregon. So he's fourth stop.
Right.
But you get a fifth-year guy who's a good pick and roll ball handler who can score, like especially in the fifth year, any power guy.
All righty. Any other thoughts? You have any thoughts on this list, Drew?
I mean, you guys pretty much covered it. I mean, for me, as a Zags fan and in desperate need of a guard, I'd like to see one of these guards, maybe like an LJ Cryer, end up there. They're being ravaged by the portal.
Now, Cryer's he's a shooting.
He's not a point guard, but
Bradley is, though.
I think next year they're going to be in a transitionary period where they're going to just need offense and they're going to need to get guys going. They're bringing in a lot of freshmen that are probably going to be getting minutes. Cryer would be a good one-stop, gives him a year, can run the offense, be the go-to scoring option in this transition period. You know, the Zags are going to be in the market for guards. They're losing Rasir Bolton. Salas is in the portal. Malachi Smith hasn't really said what his next plan is. I'm assuming he's coming back. But we've talked about on the show, I'm not a Nolan Hickman guy. And while we've talked a lot about how they need a true point guard, with Timmy gone, with Strother most likely probably not coming back, they just going to need some scoring, some veteran play on the perimeter. And while I've never been the biggest LJ Cryer guy, he does fit the bill of somebody who can get points and kind of lead an offense, I feel, especially in the WCC. Harrison Ingram interests me, man. I've seen him play a lot. And you see the flashes early on. I would say the first half of his freshman year, I feel like I saw it. I saw he's not a great athlete, but he's solidly built. He's got a solid basketball IQ on him. He handed USC their first loss when they had Isaiah Mobley and they were like undefeated to start the year. Played really well in that game, and then it was just downhill. So I think whoever gets him, I think is going to get a really solid piece. I don't know if he's ever going to live up to the 5-star billing. He's not athletic enough. He's not he doesn't excel.
Well, I think dropping some weight might help.
Definitely. So I think that's going to be an interesting one. But yeah, the portal is popping. There's a lot of you could just take this list of players here and put together a really good lineup with just these guys right here in terms of just raw talent.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I think it would be really, really interesting.
Since the last time we talked, since our last show, over 200 guys have been added to the portal. That's about 30 a day.
You know what's crazy about the portal? So these days, what's so hard to figure out is the motivation, right? We don't know what they're going to be getting somewhere else. Like Harrison Ingram is kind of easy to figure out. I think the question with Stanford and the nil going on had a lot to do with that transfer. But with a lot of these guys transferring and what's being offered them by other colleges is the question. Like, for example, Stanford, the first for me, the real notable transfer was I don't know if you guys remember Reed Travis from Stanford. Transferred to Kentucky, right? But he finished 4 years at Stanford. He graduated, he was 20-10, and he wanted to play one more. And it made sense. You can see it from his point of view, like, hey, got one more year to play basketball. Why not play for the best university in the land and have that experience? Now we just don't know what the motivation is for a lot of these guys, what they're being offered, so forth. So I can see that, for example, an Ace Baldwin, a Max Abmas.
Ace Smith, I think Ace Smith needs to move on.
Yeah,
he's done all he can at Oral Roberts.
His coach also left.
Okay.
Paul Mills at Wichita State, which I think, hey, you can move up a little bit.
Yeah, but I think Max. It's time for Max to go to another level. Yeah.
And then one last thing I just wanted to say in the front of LJ Cryer, he did express that he wanted to play a little bit of point guard, and he wanted to go somewhere where they would allow him to play more point guard as well as shooting guard. So he wants to handle the ball a little bit and go somewhere that will let him do that.
Interestingly, Baylor really doesn't have a true point guard. They
got 3 top 40 guys, 1 5-star, 2 4-stars. They're all guards.
Yeah, well, it didn't work out so well for him this year, but
it didn't.
One guy I find interesting on this list is Tremont Mark, because he was becoming the third scoring option for Houston. And Sasser's leaving, so you would think he'd be actually move up probably to and the freshman help me out.
Jarris
Walker. So Sasser and Jarris Walker are moving on, and that leaves Walker, to be the primary scoring option. You would think the number 2 would be Arsenault. Now, one could argue that they're very similar players, but you need 2 wings. So
only so much Kelvin.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about that. Yeah, he doesn't seem like Mr. Sunshine, not somebody I'd want to play for, but yeah. All right. So now we'll move on to coaching changes. And so we have did you trim this list? Oh no.
I added some notes in there. I just wanted to have some readily available stuff. I've talked about some of these guys on my other pod, but I wanted to throw that in there for you guys to look at as well.
Okay. So we have Grant McCaslin moving from North Texas to Texas Tech, which Jake predicted last week. We have Mark Madsen moving on from Utah Valley to California. We have Mike Rhodes with VCU, right?
Yep.
And moving to Penn State, which, by the way, has caused a huge defection of players at VCU. Everyone's leaving VCU. We have Ray Odom moving from Utah State to VCU. I noticed a couple guys from Utah State enter the portal. One key player today. The Ukrainian kid, his name escapes me right now, but he entered the portal today. And then we have Adam Fisher, who we talked about last week, moving on to Temple. So one thing I will say is that every one of these guys has a major project on their hands as it stands right now, except for McCaslin. He's got a fairly decent players to work with. Though they are losing Fadar, Amac is leaving. Who else?
Daniel Bacho put his name in the portal today.
Oh, okay, Daniel Bacho. So there are some players, but I still think they're going to at least have a handful of good players left over at Texas Tech, unless something changes, like seems to might be going on. Everybody else has got major work to do, because everybody seems to be leaving Penn State. Everybody seems to be leaving VCU, Temple. Everyone's already left, and California didn't have anybody to start with. So, yeah, those are my comments on these coaching situations. What do you have to say, Jake?
So, a couple of things here. First, I wanted to ask the Northern California guys from the outside. Obviously, like the academic requirements seem to be a lot of Cal. I haven't been good in a very long time. Is there something going on with like the Under Armour to Nike deal that they had to eat like a certain amount of money? Did I read something about that or no? I wanted to get your guys I wanted to ask the Northern California guys what exactly, like from a closer view, what's going on with California right now, that they've been bad. They got to buy out coaches. They don't really have the money to hire anybody good until they got Mark Madsen. They just kind of had to let Mark Fox roll with it. I want to ask you guys about that situation first and what you guys from a closer view think is like going wrong there.
Go ahead, Drew. I have something to say on it, but
you go ahead, then, Dewey.
so I mean, so you got to remember, before Mark Fox, the program, I forget who I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm looking up right now. Before the coach, before Fox was
I can't remember.
Martin, and he was recruiting some of the top. He was getting some of the top players in the country.
Yeah.
Before Martin was Montgomery, he had the program going. You get to Martin. He had a nice recruiting class come on. He left, and for whatever reason, they hired Fox. And ever since then, the program has just gone down. The players in there that they had transferred out, and absolutely zero recruits came in. I don't know how many years Fox was there for, 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, I don't know if he won 10 games in that period of time, but he was god awful. But before then, I mean, how was it really in a real bad spot? Montgomery won a few games in the tournament. They were making runs at it. They were doing things right. I love the Madsen hire. Madsen got things going at Utah Valley, and I think he's going to get the players at Cal and do what they need. I know some alumni over there. They're absolutely furious of what's going on. I love the Madsen hire, and they're not going to be too far away from being viable again.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Drew.
I think I like the Madsen hire. You bring in a Pac-10, Pac-12 alumni. I'm really disappointed Stanford didn't make a run at him. Really, really disappointed how you let a guy like that end up at your biggest rival. And I think for both of these schools, I mean, I wasn't on the basketball side, but I worked at Stanford for a football season. And I think just those schools, I think in general, have a really hard time fighting the academic and athletic cultures. They collide a lot. And I think NIL has brought a lot of that to a head, to where they're operating at a deficit when it comes to recruiting. And so it made an already tough situation even tougher. You have these schools where you have to get in on your own as an academic merit, which I think we all know it's no secret in athletics isn't always a given for some of these guys, especially top rated guys. NIL is made to the point where not only can I go play for an equally, if not bigger brand, but I can get paid to do it, versus I got to come to Stanford and I got to do homework. I got to come to Cal and I got to do homework, and I'm not getting paid. And I think that these schools were, for a while, they were just kind of like fine, just getting by, just operating like, hey, we have a basketball team. It exists. We're in a Power 5 conference. And I think that's what they were operating as. I kind of said it on the last show in regards to Haas. And I think Cal was doing the same thing. And I think bringing in Mark Madsen, who knows what it takes to compete in the Pac-12, who's done it himself, has proven that he can build up a program without, needing incredible resources at his disposal. Building up a smaller program is exactly the type of hire you need here. It's why, like when Stanford football brought in Coach Taylor from Sac State, thought it was a great hire. You bring in a guy who's been able to succeed and thrive without needing millions of dollars in NIL deals out the ass. I think this is the same kind of hire. It's going to take a while because they were terrible. I watched Cal a couple of times this year, and as bad as Stanford was, Cal was worse. Cal maybe had, I would say, having watched them, I was talking with our basketball coaches at the D2 school I'm at, and we came to agreement. They maybe had two guys that I would say Pac-12 players, not even like the highest level of Power 5 basketball. Everyone else on that team was like, what are you doing? So it's going to take a couple cycles, I think, but I think Stanford will be following suit. I would not be shocked with Harrison Ingram leaving. And, I know Stojakovic's kid's a 5-star. He's there now, but if that doesn't pan out, I would not be surprised if the next season or two we see Haas out the door as well.
The only thing is, academically though, it's night and day getting in Stanford versus Cal, right? The other way around. It's much more difficult to get into Stanford than it is getting into Cal. So it's going to be easier to, I think, to recruit at Cal. Now then again, at Stanford, right? You're still going to get, if somebody wants to go to Stanford, it is the elite of the elite. So, but academic wise, Stanford's I think at a different level than Cal.
Okay, glad I get that insight. I figured you guys had a way better idea than me being an outsider. But those were the two most recent because they're waiting for the NIT to obviously wrap up. But then there was a couple local ones that I really liked by me. So Mike Rhodes is at VCU, is now at Penn State. Really good player. He's from Pennsylvania, from Schuylkill County, which is about 2 hours east of where Penn State is. So he's not far from there. Said he grew up a Penn State guy. So it seemed like it was definitely a natural fit. 3 tournaments at VCU. Obviously, 2021 they didn't play because they had unfortunately the COVID outbreak as soon as they arrived in Indianapolis. They had to forfeit that game to Oregon. But 129-61 overall, won almost 70% of his games in A10 play. 3 tournaments, like I said. And he continued that stretch that Shaka Smart and Will Wade kept with playing very good defense. 4 of his 6 years there, top 25 in scoring defense. Last 5 years, top 50 KenPom team, and top 10 in defensive turnover rate. So you know what kind of basketball he's going to play up there. He's going to bring athletes, just big physical defensive athletes, just like he had while he was at VCU. The 3 words he described his program is going to be, he said, we're going to be bold, we're going to be different, and we're going to be aggressive. What that means in practice, we'll see. But you know what he's going to bring. They're going to play defense, and it's a style that I think is going to work in the Big Ten. So next, replacing him, this is actually, besides Pitino, I think this is actually my favorite hire of the entire offseason so far, and that's Ryan Odom at VCU, which is odd because you look at his teams at Utah State, and sure that he had a top 100 unit in both offense and defense 2 years there, but more as an offensive coach. Utah State, look at all the threes they got, all the great off-ball movement they had. They're getting looks for shooters off the ball. They had a really good point guard in Stephen Ashworth, who was a terrific shooter, top 100 in the country, but also facilitate and kick the ball to open shooters. So the thing that's interesting is they're going to play a different style of basketball than VCU is accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a team that's going to be a lot more fast-paced and a lot more fun to watch offensively, and they're going to score a lot more points. But it's a completely different style that they're accustomed to. But with that being said, you mentioned some of the guys entering the transfer portal. It was either Sean Bairstow or Max Solga. It was one of those two. I don't know why I can't remember it. But it was one of those guys that entered the portal today. Most of those guys still have eligibility. Last time he left, of course, Ryan Odom was at UMBC when they upset Virginia. But when he left for UMBC to Utah State, he took Brendan Horvath with him. He took KJ Idlerock with him from UMBC to Utah State. It wouldn't shock me if he gets some of these Mountain West guys to follow him. And immediately he has guys that know what he wants to do and know his system right away. So he's a great offensive coach. And this guy won. He made the NIT last year, was on the cusp of making 2 straight tournaments at Utah State. Got him in this year. Should have beat Missouri if they could have just knocked down a couple threes, but they couldn't. But nonetheless, great offensive coach, different than what VCU's used to. But I think he's great, and he's going to succeed in the A-10 right away. He's a good recruiter, and he'll be able to sustain the excellence they've had. We'll see what happens year one, because he's going to have to keep a lot of guys, or he might have to take a lot of Utah State guys to come. But regardless, one of the best hires of the offseason, in my opinion, like I said, right behind Pitino. And then lastly, got to talk about my alma mater. Got to talk about Adam Fisher at Temple. It was at his press conference today. If you guys get a chance to watch a couple clips of it or watch a little bit of it, he was extremely prepared. He's well-spoken. He's personable. He's funny. He was cracking jokes. But at the same time, he was able to switch his tone and also speak very sternly and speak with confidence and an edge to him about, like, I'm not going to coach effort. That's expected of you while you're here. But what I loved about him, what he said was the way they were going to play. He said they were going to pull a bunch of threes. And Rich, now they do have a lot of people in the transfer portal, like you said, but the way he was talking, it sounded like most of those guys, with the exception of Caleb Battle and with the exception of Jamil Reynolds, who's already announced his top five, his 5 schools he's down to, none of which are Temple. It seemed like everybody else was at that workout, at least in the building. Some guys are taking visits, but some guys are still keeping Temple open as an option. But what I will say is he said, we are going to put up threes. We're going to play loose, but we're going to play locked in. But we're going to put up threes. Emmanuel Okpomo was in there, who's, I believe, a junior center, played sparingly the last 2 years. And if those injuries would play more. But not a guy who's expected to touch the ball or do anything outside the paint. And he said something. He was like, I had one of our players that was like, Coach, I don't shoot threes. And he goes, well, get in the gym because you're gonna. Start getting them up because you're gonna. So, he's just got a way with people. In every article you read about him and the relationships that he's had with people, he got a Lonnie Walker, a Luka Poplar, Isaiah Wong to go down and play in Miami. Got Jameel Brown and Andrew Funk and Cam Winter and Sam Sessom from Philly to go to Penn State to play there, who transferred in from different spots. So he's a just seems like a guy you'd want to play for. A very, very nice guy who's family oriented, wants to get to know everybody in their families and get to know everybody on a personal level before we start talking basketball. But it's going to be exciting. They're going to gun threes, and it seems like they're going to play very fast. So I wish him all the success, obviously, because I want Temple to be great, and they're a program that historically is great, just hasn't been like that lately. But I think he'll get them there. I think he's got the determination to want to get there. And I think he's actually going to bring a good chunk of these guys back. Look, if you want to get threes up, you need Zach Hicks there, because Zach Hicks is a terrific three-point shooter who can defend. So if you want to get shots up, guess what? I have a guy. You don't even need to leave campus to recruit. You can already have him on your team to shoot next. So I love the style which he plans on playing. I think he can bring some of these guys back. And I think, look, you got to win games on the court. But he knocked the press conference out of the park today. I thought he did a great job, and a lot of people were very happy with him. So I'm looking forward to being a Leah Court Center next year, watching Adam Fisher coach this team, because I think they are going to be pretty good. How long that takes, we'll see. Tough job. Hasn't been great lately. He's going to have to recruit guys to go there, but he's shown the ability to wherever he's at, shown the ability to get guys to play for him.
And did he say the words that we've been waiting to hear coming from a Temple coach, which would be, we're dropping football and we're going to become the Gonzaga of the East Coast?
That will never happen. It was funny because
Temple used to be the Gonzaga of the East Coast.
Yep.
Mark Macon, Eddie Jones.
Yeah, McKee, Mike Vrieswick. It was, they had some awesome teams. But it was funny because the chairman of the board actually got up there, and I think he meant to say, we're so excited, for you to lead our team. We're so excited to be back in the Leah Court Center to watch Temple basketball. And while he said that, he said, we're so excited to watch Temple football. And then he stopped himself and said Temple basketball.
Oh, my God.
I think the football coach is doing a good job. I think he's a good dude, and he will build something there. But Matt Rule is like a once in 100 years hire, because you had something.
Well, actually, before you were born, there was a guy named Wade Harden. Temple was pretty damn competitive, but we're talking like 70s.
Exactly. It's been a while, and unfortunately, guess what? I hate to say it, you're a stepping stone job. Okay, exactly. you have a great guy who's there.
Right.
He's probably not staying.
Right. Where the basketball team has been an end job. John Chaney was one of the greatest coaches in basketball history and was there for 430 years.
Yeah, Duncan was there until they forced him out. If McKee would have been successful in this job, he wouldn't have left.
Right.
He's from here. You went to school here. He wouldn't have left if he had success.
Right.
It didn't work out.
Legendary fight with Calipari.
Yep.
Yeah,
I remember
he was going to kill him.
Yep. I remember it. All righty. So let's move on to all the hoops prospects, All-American team, Player of the Year, and Coach of the Year, which was voted on by the four of us. I won't bore you with all the votes and who voted for what, or whom, I should say, but I will read off our first team, second team, and our third team, plus honorable mention. So, first team, there's only 2 players that were unanimous first team selections, and that was Trace Jackson Davis and Zach Edey. Brandon Miller, Jaime Jaquez, and Marquise Sasser rounded out the first team. Second team, Jalen Wilson, Azulis Tabelis, Jalen Pickett, Marquise Noel, our guest last week, and Drew Timme. And the third team, Adama Sanogo, Oscar Shigwe, Keontae Johnson, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and Isaiah Wong. And lastly, the honorable mention list is pretty long. Bear with me. We have Tyler Kolek from Marquette, Big East Player of the Year, Jordan Miller from Miami, Tavion Kinsey from Marshall, Brandon Podzimski from Santa Clara, Marcus Carr from Texas, Chris Murray of Iowa, Armando Baycott of UNC, Hunter Dickinson, who's in the portal, from Michigan, Kendrick Davis from Memphis, Jordan Hawkins from UConn, Mike Miles, TCU, Tyler Perry, North Texas, Kobe Brown, Missouri, and last but not least, Deron Holmes from Dayton. So I believe the only team to have 2 players on the actual All-American team was Kansas State. They had Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson. UConn, though, also had 2 players, if you include honorable mention, with Sanogo and Jordan Hawkins.
Miami too. We had Wong and Miller.
Oh, right, in Miami, right? Excuse me,
Rich. I got a bone to pick with Rich and Drew here.
All right. Wait, if you're moving on to POY, don't, because we're not there yet.
No. Keontae Johnson, no Keontae Johnson for you guys.
Okay.
At all, and not even an honorable mention for Jordan Hawkins. I hate to expose your votes.
Well, no,
I'm going to expose your votes.
Well, the reason why I didn't vote for Jordan Hawkins is because you already did. So there's other guys I wanted to be included.
Oh, so you were, yeah, well.
I voted second. I voted second for honorable mention. So I saw who you voted for, and so I knew whoever I voted for would also be on the team.
I thought they were hidden ballots.
So I picked 3 totally different players.
Gotcha.
So
Jordan Hawkins, I like Jordan Hawkins. He looked great in the tournament, but I still have questions about what else outside of the shooting. I think there's a lot of questions still. Not that he's not going to be good, and not he's going to be able to answer some of them, but I don't know. I wasn't entirely sold throughout the entirety of the year. 40% from the field as a whole, and not great. Not like a playmaker. Not a great rebounder. I think he defended when he needed to.
This is
like
really
Marcus Carr better.
I like Marcus Carr. I thought Marcus Carr was the engine that helped Texas. Texas go.
The best team in the Big 12.
More of a pressing question is no Keontae for either of you guys.
Well, let's see.
Jake, you get it. So I don't have. I mean, you're more like me. You get it.
So why did Keontae also on our show? I voted for in his place. I voted for take your pick: Jordan Miller, Kinsey, or Podzimski. Podzimski was Player of the Year in his conference. Kinsey, he wasn't the Player of the Year in his conference. However, statistically and athletically and pro potential wise, he should have been. And of course, we know Jordan Miller. So Keontae is actually kind of interestingly, draft wise, is right up there with the 3 guys that I voted for. So NBA potential really didn't have anything to do with it. I just thought the other guys were just more productive overall. That's all there is to it. And I can show you statistics that, but we're not going to get into that argument. I mean, I think Keontae is a great player. I just think, we saw him foul out, and I saw him foul out quite a few times. That's a problem he has, which won't be so much of an issue in the NBA because you have that extra foul. But he definitely, does have a tendency to get in foul trouble. There's plenty of games this year. I mean, I watched a ton of their games, and there were plenty of the games this year where he had 2 quick fouls in the first half and ended up sitting out most of the first half. So, yeah, I get it. The other guys were just more productive overall. But
it came down to Keontae and Isaiah Wong for me in that third team, and I went with Wong, who was the ACC Player of the Year. They won their regular season. They won the regular season in the ACC. And if Keontae had appeared on the honorable mention ballot, he would have been one of my 3 guys. I also went with Pollock out of Marquette because I think he was, again, the driving force behind a team that really surprised me. And I believe was second.
He was Big East Player of the Year.
And I believe he was second in the nation in assists per game.
No, that was Marquise Noel.
Or third. I think he was in like the top. He was up there.
Definitely up
there. He was in like the top 5.
It was around 8 per game, yeah.
Yeah, so those 2 guys got the nod. Pollock was for third team. Isaiah Wong went third team. They got the nod over Keontae as Player of the Years in their conference, led their teams. But Keontae would have been in my honorable mention selection if he had been in that list that Richard sent out.
So this is where I figure Booney's going to yell at us because we had a tie for Player of the Year, and I, being the tiebreaker, chose Drew and I both voted for Trace Jackson Davis, and Jake and Booney voted for Zach Edey. Again, the 2 unanimous first team selections. I can defend my selection by simply saying, and this was the first thing that came to my mind when it came down for me to vote, was that Jackson Davis won the 2 head-to-head battles this year and looked better. He also at least survived, a round in the NCAA tournament and, lost to a really good Miami team. So you certainly, I could have gone with Edey just as well. It's just, those were my 2 things in my mind when I voted.
Yep, agreed. I went with the head-to-head matchup, and I'll be the first to admit I'm not a Zach Edey fan, really. I mean, I think his statistics are great, but I think when you can be played out of a game, schemed out of a game, and lose to it, when you can have he had like 22 and 13 in the first round and they still lost, that just tells me that your numbers are a bit more on the empty calorie side to me. I'm just not a fan. I haven't been a fan since he grabbed 2 rebounds against St. Peter's last year. That to me was a huge red flag. I hear that. I'm seriously.
Yeah, but I mean, he made huge strides since last.
He made huge strides, but I mean, I think Trace Jackson Davis is a better basketball player.
Yeah, I do too. That's the other thing. I mean, I also think he is a better basketball player. I tried to eliminate that pro. No, I tried to eliminate the pro evaluator out of my thinking for this thing, but sometimes it's hard to get rid of.
I put Edey in the first team too. I'm not a fan, but I still gave him the first team nod. So
right. So any of you Edey guys have a retort?
No, you guys' response handled my retort.
Okay. Coach of the Year, we were pretty much almost unanimous selection. 3 of us went with Jerome Tang of Kansas State, and Booney chose Shaka Smart, which was another excellent choice. In fact, we talked about Coach of the Year, Booney and I did, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months ago, and I brought up Shaka Smart. It was kind of like, at the time, was kind of like my leading candidate in my mind. But ultimately, the way everything broke out, if we did this before the tournament, I might have voted for Shaka Smart. That's how close it was. But I had to give the edge to Tang based on how far Kansas State went in the tournament. So any thoughts there, Booney, since you were the one?
I could see you going either way on that one. I felt, the only reason I went with Marquette is I felt they had a little less talent than Kansas State. And, that's it. But, it's a flip.
I actually think they have a little more talent myself. But
I might agree there.
As far as their top end players,
Kansas State has the 2 best players, but
3. I mean, what's his name's a heck of a player.
Marquette has more talent, I think, say 1 through 8.
Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with how Smart got him going and so forth. But like I said, hey, Jerome Tang's he's a hell of a coach himself. I could see you going either way.
Right. And, I will say this, we had both Keontae Johnson and Marquise on the show, and man, they cannot stop saying good things about their coach. Yeah. I don't think we've ever had players talk so glowingly. We don't always talk about coaches when we have players on, but those guys can't can't say enough good things about him.
Like I said, hey, those two coaches flip a coin. It's not like an Edie Jackson Davis deal, you know?
Right. So it's time for our special guest, LMU's Cam Shelton, who I spoke with earlier today. Today's special guest is LMU's dynamic guard, Cam Shelton, who was a first-team All-WAC selection and the 13th leading scorer in the country this season with 21.4 points per game. Cam not only led the WAC in scoring, but also ranked in the top 5 of the conference for assists per game with 4.3, steals per game with 1.8, field goal percentage 49, free throw attempts, free throws made, player efficiency rating, win shares, and plus minus. Welcome to the show, Cam. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sorry. My script was jumping around because other people in the organization are working on it right now for the rest of our show. So it was jumping up and down. So that's why I was, if I didn't sound like I was, anyway, forget it. So I saw on a school's website that if you could have dinner with 3 people, you chose Jesus, Malcolm X, and Jay-Z. If you could pick a 4th, would it be me?
I gotta wait to the end of this, and I'll give you an honest answer at the end.
I'm just joking. So the season ended for you about a month ago with the loss to BYU in the WCC tourney. What have you been up to since then?
Well, I took the first 2 weeks after the season off. Last year after we lost to BYU, the second day, after we lost, I was back in the gym, and, I had success this year. So I was like, all right, as soon as we, lose and, we get back home and the season's over, I'm going to get back to it. And unfortunately that was not the case. The people around me made sure that I, took some time off just to, heal my body and just kind of get mentally ready for, the next part of my career. And
right.
So that's what I did. I kind of laid around, read some books, caught up on a show I've been watching. And then, the past 2 weeks, so I think this is my either second or third week training, but I've been training again, pretty much around the clock.
On campus? Training on campus?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're close to home, right?
Yeah, so I grew up in Chino, California, which is about 40 miles east of here, but right now I'm still living around the corner from LMU.
Nice. And what show did you get caught up on?
Snowfall. So this is the final season of Snowfall.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. I wasn't watching it because I was playing, so I really didn't have time to watch it. Because I was locked in on the season, and then I got some time. I was like, all right, everybody's talking about it. I might as well, hop back into it, see what's going on.
It's intense. And, I always like those shows where not everybody is purely good or not everyone is purely evil. Everybody has their pluses and minuses, kind of like real life.
Just like real life. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's one of those shows, and it's intense. It's not the kind of show you really want to watch before you go to bed. But at least I wouldn't think so. But anyway, I love it though. I can't wait till the new season. So did you watch much of March Madness?
So I tried to stay away from it. I really did try. I just thought it was going to be, too frustrating for me,
right,
to watch it, just feeling like, LMU, especially this year, could be in it, or we could be in NIT, whatever. So I try to stay away from it, but, I'm too, like, it's basketball. Like, I love to watch basketball. So I was called to it. And, I ended up watching pretty much every game after, like, the round of 32. Like, I couldn't help myself.
Wow,
so,
nice.
I watched most of those games, and I had a couple buddies playing. Lamont Butler, Matt Bradley, shout out to them for having a great season.
Sure.
They're from where I'm from. Lamont and I play with the same, travel team. And I know him and his family pretty well. And, same with Matt, when we were younger, about 10 or 11 years old, we played, with the same team. So shout out to those guys on a great year.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lamont's shot in the Final Four. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, man. He's a household name now, and he deserves it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a great defender too.
Oh, yeah.
So at the top, I mentioned all your great stats, but I didn't mention that you scored more than 21 points in 10 of your last 12 games, including 27 against Gonzaga, 31 against St. Mary's, 36 versus Santa Clara, and 40 versus Pacific. What accomplishments from the great season that you had are you most proud of?
I think the thing that I'm most proud of is being able to beat Gonzaga at home. Obviously, that's a tough place to play. Nobody's won there in 5 years. So
right.
And nobody was able to do it.
77 or 76 straight?
Yeah, it was 75. They were looking to make it 76.
Okay.
Until we came through there. And then beating St. Mary's at home, just because, it was a packed house. And, it was looking like we were going to lose the game. And, we did that quite a few times this year at LMU, gave our fans, a scare. We were down big, a few times with 30 seconds left, a minute left. And, we had enough grit and fight and, determination to come back and win those games. But that one at St. Mary's was particularly special because, the fans were able to get involved. They stormed the court, which I've never been a part of anything like that in my career. So that was one of the most special moments I've ever had, period, not just from this year.
Right. Wonderful. So overall, I'm not talking about a specific statistic, but if you look at your whole body of work, this season was by far your best college season. What was the key to your success? What made this year so different? And because you did well at Northern Arizona. Then last year, you not a great year, but this year was just fabulous.
I think the work that not only myself, but the people I have, around me, who work with me, the things that we were able to do in the off season was, the biggest thing for me. Obviously, like you said, last year was not my best year by any stretch of the imagination, but just to know that and to try and learn everything I could, not only while I was going through, the season last year, but also just taking time to break down, film of last year, why I wasn't successful. What do I need to add to my game? What do I need to stop doing? And so just having a really meticulous and detailed process this off season, or this past off season, was able to help me have success. So it wasn't anything big. It's just the people around me were committed to working with me, and they were committed to showing me what I needed to do to get better. And I bought into it, and I was able to have the season I was able to have.
Right. Looking at your opponents, you played some great teams, great players this year. Who would you say the best player you faced this season was?
I think that, I think the answer on paper is probably Drew Timme.
Right.
But
how about somebody you matched up with, like Appleby or Mahaney or
Yeah, so that I was gonna say, Appleby, he was really good. He really carried, Wake Forest, in my opinion. And if literally we don't hit shots late and get a couple stops late, we don't win that game. And I think he had like 20-something points. Dished out a lot of crucial assists. So he was good. One of my favorite players of all time to compete against is Logan Johnson.
Right.
At St. Mary's. He really, really makes it tough on you. People don't believe me when I say it, especially this year because of the success, individually I had against St. Mary's. But man, that guy is a outstanding defender. Like he knows what you want to do and does not let you do it. and he's in shape. He's a strong, physical big guard, and just an all around competitor, man. And I don't know if he was the best guy I competed against. Obviously, there was a lot of good guards like Podzimski from Santa Clara. He's
Right.
really good. Mahaney, he's young, but he's really good. But Logan Johnson, he's right up there with those guys. If not better. I'm who am I to say who's better than somebody, but just as far as who do I love to compete against and who do I get excited about competing against, it's 100%, Logan Johnson.
We have two guys on the show that are both from the Bay Area, and one of them used to coach at Fresno State, and he called Logan Johnson this year the best on-ball defender in college basketball. So,
yeah, I think it's out of him and Jalen Clark at UCLA, who's obviously
right,
was crucial to their team. I think if Jalen was still playing, UCLA might be in the title game and might have won a championship. But it's one of those two guys. I mean, they're both spectacular.
Right. Last week we had Marquise Noel on the show, and he talked about the advice that he's received from current or former pros on how to succeed as an undersized player. Now, you're significantly bigger than him, but still, for an NBA guy, you're on the smaller side. So have you sought similar advice? And if so, what kind of advice have you gotten?
It's funny you say that because I agree. I think I'm a little bit of an undersized guard, but a really good friend of mine is actually Pooh Jeter. Went to Fullerton, is with the Ignite right now, has been playing basketball for 60 years. By now, like
if he's been playing basketball for 60 years, I'm about 120.
All right, maybe not 60, but it seems like he's been playing forever. But him and I were able to get together last off season, and even the one before that. And he always checks in on me, and we get a lot of quality work together. Especially in off season, he's always texting me things or calling me, and he's been to games and practices and stuff like that. So the thing that he told me was, number one, I have to be the most in shape guard out of anybody in the country. I cannot get tired. And that's something that I try to do. I try to pride myself on, like, can I play 40 minutes at a high level? Can minute 40 look like minute 2 or minute 3 or minute 8? You should never be able to tell, where the game is by how I'm playing. And then another thing he told me, which was, interesting, was that I need to use my size. And I'm only 6'2", but I'm a stronger guard. So being able to use, my physicality, especially defensively, and, making it, difficult on guards defensively, and just really taking pride in winning my matchup that way. And then, also just the other stuff, being able to make defenders pay when they're going under screens. They went under screens a lot, especially the first part of my career, and obviously last year. This year I really try to pride myself on, okay, if you go under, I'm going to shoot the ball. And I think, I was up around the 5 or so 3-point attempts per game at, around 38%. Mm-hmm. And it made it a lot easier for me to score points that way. So, and then he just gave me, other tricks of the trade, some stuff to expect, going down the line of my career. Before the year started, he was already giving me drills that, I was going to do an NBA workouts and what I needed to do to get to Portsmouth. Thankfully, I just got my invite the other day.
That's still one of my questions.
Yeah. So, before the year, like, he's giving me all this advice, and he's inviting me to runs, and he's showing me, how to guard guys, how to do this, how to get guys off me, how to create space offensively. So, there's probably other guys, other, pros that I'm missing, but as far as like taking real time to really help me and really develop me, Pooh has been, spectacular for my career.
Great. It was great to have those types of resources. So you're a fifth-year guy, and obviously you're going into the draft. What what areas are you looking to improve upon the most? I mean, Portsmouth is next week, correct?
Yeah, it's on the 12th.
Yeah, right. So that's right around the corner. But assuming you get to G League Elite Camp or the NBA Combine, between now and when you actually start working out for NBA teams, be it in a group or individually, what types of things are you looking to improve upon the most?
Well, my swing skill is my ability to shoot the three. It's no secret that that's where basketball is headed. All
Right.
5 guys on the court are going to have to be able to knock down a shot. And while I shot well this year, and I am an improved shooter, I haven't shown a history of, being a 38% three-point shooter on high volume. So just being able to continue to build upon that, increasing my range, increasing my consistency. I think a lot of times this year, I was shooting off the dribble at the next level. I may not be, taking threes off the dribble. I may be catching and shooting, lifting up when someone's coming off the screen, standing in the corner, relocating on someone else's drive. So, just improving on that. And that's pretty much the bulk of what I've been working on, in these workouts so far. We do some touch stuff, some finishes, some other things I want to add to my game around the rim and around the mid-range. But I think that, the thing that can help me add the most.
You mean like runners, floaters, things like that?
Yeah, runners, floaters, kind of like the bump fadeaway shot that Jalen Brunson has. I really love his game.
Right.
But, the bulk of my work has been, 3-point shots and 3-point shooting. And, I am an improved shooter. And I do feel like much, much, much more confident behind the three. And I'm getting used to that NBA three, which can be a big adjustment for a lot of people. But, like I said, my swing skill is my three, and that's something I want to continue to build upon. And, I think that if I'm able to do that at a high level consistently on high volume, the sky's the limit for, what I'm able to do in basketball.
Right, right. So for those who haven't seen you play, I would describe you as a 3-level scorer. You're excellent in pick and roll, excellent in ISO, and excellent in at least this season. You were excellent spotting up. So, if you're talking to an NBA team, or I should say, what kind of things are you going to sell them as, this is the guy you're getting, this is what I can do. And part 2 of that question is, what do you envision your role being? Because right now you're ball dominant guard, maybe you still will be. But I'm just curious what you're thinking.
As far as what I can sell them on, I think if I was sitting in front of a GM or an owner and I was talking to them, I wouldn't try to sell them on anything basketball related, in my opinion. There's thousands upon thousands of people who can score and, are good in ISOs, are good in spot ups, and, can make plays off the bounce. But when you find good people, and you find people who are about the right stuff, and you find people who want to win and who bring a good energy and spirit to the locker room and want to see others do well and is committed to what they're doing and will bring the right business attitude and business mindset to a team and to an organization every day, that's where I would sell myself on, the professionalism behind the game. Because you see a lot of guys, they're talented, but, some of the other stuff is where, they may not, be able to make it like, they should. And, I feel like my biggest thing and the thing that I can, help with the most is, just doing that stuff, the little stuff, leadership, consistency, because that's what gets, people paid. That's how you win games. Right. That's how you build championship organizations. I look at even our season at LMU, like the difference between last year's team and this year's team. We had guys who brought it every single day, no matter how they felt, didn't have a bad practice, and therefore you're probably not going to have many bad games. So that's my biggest thing, and I think that I have a great opportunity to show that, especially at Portsmouth. I always feel like the basketball part will take care of itself. You're not going to find many people who are going to outwork me and play harder than me, in my opinion. I could be wrong, and who am I to say that? But that's just how I feel.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's what separates people is desire.
Yeah.
I desire intelligence, and I think you have both. So I think you're in good shape there. Have you ever, with going into Portsmouth, I know you've been to Bahamas, and I know you want to go to Paris, but have you ever been to Virginia? Have you been?
I'm trying to think. I do not think I've been to Virginia. There's a lot of places on the East Coast I have not been, to be honest.
Okay.
On the West Coast,
My house for one. You've never come here.
Yeah, I've never been there. No.
I know you're looking forward to Portsmouth. Have you gotten any advice about what to expect there?
Yeah, a little bit. I heard that I heard people can be out there, playing for themselves.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Which which is the case at any camp.
Yes,
and
that is correct.
I guess the advice I was just given was to just go and be a leader and try to explain to the guys that I have, like, if the team does better and we play for each other, we'll all look better. Which is what you try to tell anybody you're playing with, right? Like, if the team does well, you look a lot better than you are. Like, if you look at these guys getting paid in the NBA a lot of money, they're usually coming off championship teams. Like, look at like Jay Crowder, he's always on a championship team, right? And as far as I know, and I haven't studied it, but yes, he's making pretty good money. He's happy with his career.
Right.
Like, he's not doing anything flashy. He's just doing winning stuff. So if we have guys that can do winning stuff, we'll all look better. Right. So that's probably the best advice I've gotten. I'm excited to see what happens, and I'm excited to compete and try and prove that not only do I deserve to be there, but I'm one of the best, if not the best player at the camp.
Right. Do you know any friends that are going?
No, not that I know of. I think I had a buddy who I think probably should be going, Elijah Harkless from UNLV.
Yeah.
I was talking to him yesterday.
He's a scrapper. He hadn't
gotten his invite. Yeah, he's very similar to me in my opinion, and as far as
he's not the scorer you are, but
no, I'm just talking about mentality.
Right. Yeah. He's a glue guy,
and he's a worker as well.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to talk over you.
No worries, but that's my guy.
Right. If you had to make this choice, and I know you don't want to think this way, but I'm just curious. If you had to choose next season between the G League and playing in Europe, but in Europe you would get more money. I'm not talking like $1,000 more a year. I'm talking significantly more money. So if you had that option, which would you choose?
I've had this question a lot, actually. But the answer is I don't know. Right. It 100% depends on where am I going to get better? Because this is a long game. Like, I don't plan on playing professional basketball for 1 year, 2 years. I want to play for as long as I can. I want to play for a long time. So wherever I could go next year and get better, it's not about the money right away for me. Like, obviously we play to Austin Reeves said it the other day, like, we play to make money, right? That's the name of the game. But for me, it's about getting better so I can be the best basketball player that I can be. So if I have to sacrifice money so I can get better, so I can make my money on the back end and be where I need to be in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I'll do that. So just as simple as I get to wherever I can go and get better, and I see myself being able to use where I'm at next year as a stepping stone to get to the next highest, whatever it is, that's where I'll go.
Okay. That brings to mind a question I heard that was asked I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but someone was asked, maybe they ask everybody they talk to, but just be prepared for crazy questions like this. They asked if he could only play one season and win an NBA title, but would, for whatever reason, get hurt or something would happen, he could never play again, or he could play 10, 15 years and make all the money in the world. which would you do? Now, I'm not asking you that question. I'm just saying that's the type of things they're going to ask. So think about that. I think what they want to hear is, I want to win the NBA title.
That's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, because you could never play again.
You can. It's hard to win a title. Like, how many people can say that they won an NBA champ? Like, I haven't won I did win a high school championship. So I've won a championship before, but it was in high school. It's hard to win the championship, and I think that it's easier to make money doing something else than it is to win an NBA championship. So
That's true. That's true. Here's the other thing, though. I was wondering. I wonder if somebody said, "Well, you know what? Win or lose, I love basketball so much. I want to play as long as I can." And they might be looking for an answer like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because doesn't it feel like, at least in today's NBA, that there's a lot of guys out there that just don't love it as much as they did, or maybe they never loved it that much? Another question they asked, and this one someone said is stupid, but I'm just telling you this just out of curiosity how you would answer it. And I don't think it's a stupid question. They ask him, how many basketballs would fit in this room? Now, a basketball is approximately what?
Yeah, I know about that one.
You heard that one?
It's how the ball's inflated or deflated, right?
Oh, no, I didn't hear. No.
That's what I heard.
No, but what I was thinking, someone said that was a dumb question. No, I'm thinking, the more you would ask, you would say, like, is the ball inflated or deflated? Is the furniture still in the room? Are we still in the room? Somebody who would work at it. You give them a question that they would work at it, as opposed to just throwing out a number like 900. You know what I'm saying? I think they want to see. Yeah. I think they want to see, are you competitive? Do you want to? Are you going to be competitive at anything and everything? So. Anyway, all right. Last question for you. What are you going to miss most about college?
I had a good time in college. There's a lot to miss, but I would say the number one, thing is the people. I met a lot of great people at Northern Arizona. People who still, check up on me today and, watch my games and come to my games and, text me and call me and do all that stuff. And then I met, another group of great people at LMU. So, I've twice the amount of, people I met that, I guess. But, just the impact that they've had on my life and on my career, and also on my education. Like, people, I'm not the same, obviously, no one is. No one's the same as they were when they first get into college. But I feel like I've learned so many things just from, the people who have decided to come and impact my life and, give me things that, are invaluable, lessons that are invaluable. And a lot of times people didn't even know that they were, doing these things. So, I'm grateful for the people I met and the experiences that they were able to, share with me. And I'm grateful to be, a part of so many people's lives. And, hopefully I was able to impact them the way they were able to impact me. But, I'm going to miss them a lot. And, obviously they say, you're not going to spend that much time with these people ever again. Right. And, actually I was thinking about that today. Like, I'm never going to see, the people that I care about in college this much again, because we're all going to go do our own things and have our own lives. But, my goal is to stay in contact with as many of them as I can. And, I want these people to be, a part of my life forever. And, I'm so grateful that I was able to meet them. So just the people that I met at both schools and, and some of them weren't even like going to school with me, which is the crazy part. Some people you just meet living in the city, or because I know this person, I know this person, I know this person. Right. And that's kind of how it works. So, I'm really grateful for that. And my mind is blown whenever I think about, the fact that I wouldn't know any of these people if I didn't make the decisions that I would make.
Yeah. Good answer. Good answer. Well, Cam, I'm so happy we got a chance to talk. I really enjoy watching you play. We talked about you on the show when we were talking about players who were on the rise. And I studied film a lot of you before that particular show, and I was so impressed with your game.
Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck in the draft and beyond. And please stay in touch if we can. Matthew has my email and phone number and all that good stuff, and maybe we'll even cross paths at the combines. Hopefully.
Yeah, I look forward to it, and thank you. I haven't done many podcasts. I think the last one I did was with my buddy, from NAU. So this is fun, and if we have a chance to get back on one of these, I would love it.
Yeah, we definitely love to have you again. Sure, that'd be great. Let Matthew know that, by the way, and so I can, so I have a way to reach out to you once you get out of his sphere of influence.
Yeah. All right, I will for sure. Yeah.
All right. So Cam, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
So Doc Llewellyn has joined us, and we're going to have him join us for the mailbag because we have an NBA question, and it's actually somewhat suspicious. I'm not sure that Doc didn't write this one himself, but we'll get to that. We'll start with the first couple ones are about college, and the first two are very much related. So I'm going to read them both at the same time because I think they're kind of connected. Noah says the transfer portal is now full of huge names like Caleb Love, Hunter Dickinson, Max A. Smith, etc. What are your overall thoughts on the portal becoming so prevalent in the world of recruiting? Then, question 2, Randy asks, did you hear that 2-time transfers? I think he actually means multiple time transfers, like somebody who transfers more than once, are going to have a very hard time earning immediate eligibility. What's the point of that? Well, I think the point of that is because people are worried that the portal is somewhat getting out of control. But I'm going to let you guys, anyone have immediate thoughts on this?
Yeah. I mean, it's for me, it's a little too much. I do think there needs to be a rule to it. I think you should be allowed only one transfer. And then after the first transfer, it should go back to the old ways where you're forced to sit out 1 year in order to transfer again.
Well, what about a coaching change, though? I mean, what if your coach leaves?
That's up to the old rules again, right? Then that would be void of the of the waiting period. So for me, it's become like free agency. You have kids playing 5-6 years at their fourth school. It's just it's too much. There needs to be a little bit of that college feel, and right now it feels a little bit too much of a free agency.
Anybody?
Yeah, I think the thing that for me is, at least in regards to the first question, because I do agree with you. I think being able to, guys going to 3 or 4 different places just not because of a coaching change or, like a big injury or something is a little extreme. But I do think that in regards to the first question, I think the guys that are getting screwed here are the high school kids, man. I mean, if you have scholarships, let's say you've got, 2 open spots, for example, and a guy like Hunter Dickinson comes available, are you giving Hunter Dickinson a scholarship even for just the 1 year he's coming in as, that, 5th-year transfer? Or are you going to go, try to invest in the 18-year-old kid? I mean, that's kind of just the way it is. I get it. But especially with COVID, I work at the D2 level, and we're seeing it. There's a lot of really talented players that could probably play at not the highest of D1, but be D1 players that are being forced to go to other levels just because there's so many guys in the portal. There's so many guys who are still around.
Isn't that more because of the COVID extension as opposed to?
Yes. I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think to a degree, but like Hunter Dickinson is gonna be the biggest. He's like these guys now. Hunter, Max, Caleb, LJ. Those are the priority for guys now. It's not high school guys, and it doesn't impact me necessarily. I just think that it's just an interesting change. We came from an era where it was all about the one and done guys, and you were trying to compile as many guys who were lottery picks that were going to stick around for 1 year. And now we're seeing it shift to where I'm bringing in as many veterans. That's what I mean. It doesn't impact me.
Look at how many players we listed on that list of players who have yet to declare and may not declare now because of NIL.
Exactly.
It's not just the transfers that are hurting the high school players. It's guys have more incentive to stick around at college.
It's just becoming more selective. It was already, you had to be 1 of 1 in high school. Now you got to be like 1 of 0.1 in high school.
But the thing I'm going to say is when Hunter Dickinson leaves, like, so if you're at North Carolina and Hunter Dickinson's going to North Carolina and North Carolina then uses a scholarship on him, but now Michigan has an opening.
But then they're going after then they're going after your mid-level guy, right? And then it's a constant downhill. Then the mid-level's going after your low major guy. Then the low major guy is going to go after your top Division II guys. Colleges are less and less recruiting high school kids, I think is what Drew's saying. And junior college used to be the transfer portal. That's no longer the case. There's no more recruiting of high school kids for the most part right now.
But I don't think it's so much because of transferring. I think it's more NIL and the COVID year that let everybody stay an extra year. And now, in addition to that, now you have more incentive to stay. I think that's what's clogging up the system.
Part of it, but again, those coaches no longer are going after high school kids. They're strictly recruiting out of the portal.
Right. I get that.
But you're part. Yeah, I mean, they're sticking around longer.
It's all like combined into one big thing.
Right.
And again, it doesn't impact. I mean, as long as the games are still good, the teams are still loaded, it's fun to watch, it's fun to analyze. But it's just we've just seen a culture shift. We had that run where it was like, Duke winning championships with a trio of freshmen and making Elite Eights with freshmen. Kentucky winning with a young Michael Kidd-Gilchrist and Anthony Davis. Now you got teams where everyone's at least a sophomore, if not a junior or a senior. It's just changing again as
well, I mean, the one and dones is definitely not the way to win a national title.
Yeah,
I mean, we know that now. I mean,
for sure.
And why Kentucky and Duke continue to go that route is beyond me, because it's not going to work. And if you haven't figured that out yet, I don't know why you haven't.
No, agree. I totally agree.
But by the way, to answer Randy's question about having a harder time of getting immediate eligibility, I actually saw that. I saw Rothstein say that. And so I assume that he has credible source, though. Jake brought into question some of the things he tweets on last week, which we found out to be incorrect. But assuming Rothstein's correct about that, I would say it's somewhat in response to everything we just talked about. So, all right. So the next question, I think we pretty much already answered at the top of the show. I don't know if you guys have anything to ask, but Andrew asked, what do you guys have to say to those claiming the Final Four was boring due to a lack of blue bloods or big brands? I think we basically told those
I
guys.
got one thing to add on that.
Go ahead.
And again, Drew mostly covered the thing, but just because you have a certain number of stars by your name doesn't make you a great player, nor a good player. And just because your team plays in a Power Five conference doesn't make you a good team. You play out the games for a reason. And I thought it was great to see some of these smaller schools say to Purdue, say to the Arizonas, hey, we can compete right there with you. We're just as good. And I like seeing, and there was about time they got a little bit notoriety and a little bit more credit for what they can do rather than always having the media control who the best teams are. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
And you know what? And ultimately, excuse me, but all I want to say is ultimately the best team won. I mean, we don't always get to say that every year in the tournament, but this year in the tournament, the best team won. There's just no doubt about it.
I want to say something on that, though. See, I don't watch men's college basketball. I watch women's. I watch it for a different reason than you guys. I watch women's because the players actually stay for all 4 years. You get to know them. You get to see them develop all 4 years. So this year in the men's tournament, I'm not an avid watcher. I only watch during March. When March come, none of the good teams that I know of, Duke, no rivalry. I didn't really know no rivalry, so there was no point in me watching. So when I look at it, it's just teams that traditionally throughout the years, it's just, okay, who? And then there's already no top draft guys there that I even know of. So it's just like, who? So it's like nothing to look interesting. It's like nothing interesting. Like next year when Bronny comes in, it don't matter what team Bronny is on. Bronny could play for Purdue. but I'm gonna watch it because Bronny's on the team. You know, like the other guy, Imani Bates, his team is horrible. But he averages 40, but I know Imani Bates. If Imani Bates is in the Final Four, I would watch because Imani Bates is there. So I think with people who's not avid watchers, which is a lot of people who not avid watchers only watch in March, when they saw the teams that they usually know, like North Carolina, Duke, those Big East teams, they didn't see them there. It was just like it's boring. It's automatically say it's boring without giving it a shot. So I think that's what it really was. You know, we didn't give it a shot.
That's kind of what we said at the top of the show. It was maybe boring for your casual fan, but not for you, not for your regular college fan. It was fantastic. Now, I will say again, you're not going to see a lot of these one and done guys in the Final Four anymore. You're just not, because they're not good enough. They're not good enough. And unfortunately, a lot of them end up on the same teams, and that makes it worse because you just have a bunch of inexperience going against experience and more physically developed bodies and brains and experience. It just, you know, if these one and done start getting spread out a little more, then you might see more in the Final Four. But
to your point, Doc, you know, at the same time, it's like you like the NBA. I love the NBA too. Used to a lot more than I did, but you know, in college hoops, you have 368 teams, and in the NBA, you have what, 31. So, and
no, 30.
30. And the NBA is a marketing machine as well. Where the NCAA, since there is so many teams and you don't know who necessarily, they're mostly marketing the tournament rather than the individuals in the team, where the NBA is a little bit different. But yeah, I get your point. I see what you're coming from.
And by the way, about the women's thing, I mentioned it maybe like 2 shows ago.
No, you mentioned it last week.
Last week, I told you the women's are going to be big, man. You see, all you see the timelines women's. I told y'all it was going to be big. It was the storyline, and it was.
And then they messed it up.
Even though the media made it into a race war, and they planned that,
they sure did.
But it was going to be big regardless. Before that, before the game even started, it was going to be big numbers because the game before was Iowa versus South Carolina. That was the all-time most, and then the next game, of course, LSU against Iowa broke 9.9. So I mean, it was this year definitely Caitlin Clark, and the drama was going on. I already knew it was going to be big, but I knew it was going to be bigger than the men's this year. You know, I don't know what's going to happen next year. You know, you got Bronny. If Bronny even plays, I think he's going to go to the G League, honestly. I think he's scared to go to the college game, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm excited to see.
Well, see, there's another thing that's not happening in the women's that's happening in the men's. The talent, because of the transfer portal, and because I think, at least to some degree, they are catching on that you can't have a bunch of freshmen. You can't have a Fab Five team every year. I think the talent is starting to even out.
100%.
And I think it's becoming more competitive. So yeah, I mean, look at the ACC. I mean, the ACC used to dominate, and now the ACC is like, now, you know, is kind of like the bottom rung of the Power Six. So yeah, I think that's another reason why you're going to see different teams in there every year, because everything's getting more balanced. Where still in women's basketball, I mean, during the regular season, you'll see scores like 80-40. You know, it's a cluster of teams that are really, really good, and everybody else is kind of
There's the top 12 teams. That's about it. The 1 through the 3 seeds,
right?
In the women's tournament. Then that's just. I mean, the talent just hasn't been dispersed as evenly.
Right.
But
it has gotten better. But yeah,
it has gotten better.
So
it's going to be so good too. It's going to be way more teams than 3. It's about 7 of them that's really on the same level next year. Definitely not at South Carolina.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's great that Connecticut doesn't win it every year. That's great for basketball.
Yeah, they'll be back next year though.
Yeah, I mean,
I like that dynasty thing though. When a team, I like when a team wins 7-8 in a row. I like that.
I wouldn't mind it as long as they're not winning, you know, by a score like 80-45.
Men or women.
Agreed.
I don't mind. I don't mind if it's like, you know, I mean, even UCLA didn't dominate like that.
No,
you know?
I like the dynasties.
So, Doc, if you did make up this next question, you really wanted to pick the name of Ralph? Who the hell is named Ralph these days? All right, so the next question is apparently from Ralph. But I have a feeling his initials are DL, but we'll find out. He says, where's that Maverick guy? I'd hide too if I picked Dallas to win it all. And you know, Maverick, not only did he pick Luka to be MVP, we all did pretty much. It was almost unanimous among our preseason.
Joel Embiid over here, I think.
Fearless. Did you? I think you may have. But I mean, it was pretty. But no one picked the Mavericks to win the West, except for him. No one picked the Mavericks to win it all, except for him. So, did you write this question, Doc?
No, I didn't write the question. I didn't. I don't need to soak it in no more than Maverick, man. My first show here, let's replay that. I could replay that first show. Everything, that first argument me and him had about the Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic. You could have replayed that 100 times, and everything came true. Time is everything.
So you really believe there's someone out there named Ralph?
That's a common name.
I don't know anyone named Ralph. All right, so the last question is kind of directed toward me since I run things around here. Tony wants to know, when are you guys going to update the draft board? It's been weeks. All right, so first of all, Tony, we're about the only site that updates our draft board as often as we do. There's most sites around here, especially, I mean, we start updating it in October or November, I guess. And we pretty much do it, I don't know, at least once a month, but sometimes we do it weekly. And yeah, we haven't done it for about a month, and it's going to be updated. I was waiting for the tournament to end. And so, yeah, it will be updated very soon. But compared to other sites, we update ours way more than most sites.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now, I assume Booney and Jake, you're not going to lower yourselves and participate in the NBA chat. Are we going to say goodbye to you now?
Yeah.
I'll stick around for a little NBA with you guys.
I have nothing to add. A lot of my friends laugh at me because I'm like, dude, I haven't watched a full-length NBA game since Christmas, and they all laugh at me. They're like, wow, you have to prove to us that you watch college ball all the time. But that's the reality of it. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to spend my free time. I need maybe get a job. Just figure out something now that college ball's over. Maybe I'll go to bed.
Hey, college parlays, man.
I still keep looking at the box scores and wondering, Cleveland Cavaliers box scores, and wondering why Kevin Love's not in it.
I'm lost. I gotta figure out what to do, man. I gotta figure out how to spend my time. So yeah, maybe eventually, yes, but I have nothing to add for you.
All right, Jake. Well, it was great today. You did good stuff, especially on the press conference. So we will, maybe we won't see you next week because I think we're going to be doing our NBA playoff show. So, but if we want to do a quick notebook, maybe we'll put you in charge of that.
Yeah, I could always take care of college stuff if you need me. But yeah, for next week.
Yeah, well, we'll do a quick notebook. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, that works for me then.
All right, we'll see you next week, Jake.
Yep.
Jake, appreciate you, brother.
Yep, see you.
All right, we got 3 topics today for our NBA chat. And number 1 is, this goes back to Maverick. Who will get the last play-in spot in the West? Now, for you those not familiar, OKC has a 1-game lead over Dallas and a 1.5 game over Utah, and Utah's got some injury issues. And everybody, I believe, has 3 games remaining. Is that correct?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
New Orleans has 3, Lakers 3.
Well, no,
OKC
we're just talking
2.
about these 3 particular teams: OKC, Dallas, and Utah for the last spot in the West.
Yeah, OKC has 2.
OKC has 2 now. Okay, I better take a peek at the standings then. All right, well, you guys want to start talking while I verify the standings?
Well, I'm picking The Thunder. I ain't picked the Mavericks to go to the playoffs, man. This is before the season, this is before Kyrie came, and then made even better that Luka finally got superstar to prove a point that he can't play with no superstar. It ain't got worse. So yeah, I don't think the Mavericks are gonna get it. Like Luka says he's not happy. Basically, he said he misses Jalen Brunson, which is crazy.
I saw that.
You miss Jalen Brunson, but you have Kyrie Irving, right? You should have an upgrade. It's not really about them missing Jalen Brunson. It's about you gave away Spencer Dinwiddie also, and Damian Finney-Smith who played deep. So it's not just about Jalen Brunson. You was in the same predicament before you trade for Kyrie. Y'all was still 4th seed in the West. Y'all was fourth or fifth last year in the West with Brunson. So it's not really about Brunson. It's about you gave up 3 players altogether for 1. And that's where you at. So in all season, you just retool, get some defenders, get a shot blocker in the paint. My thing is in free agency is like the NBA center is like the NFL running back. You don't pay for a center or a running back unless they're top 3. Okay, if you're not top 3 in that position, you never overpay for that. You give them the bare minimum. And the NBA is $10 million for a center, and you play by committee. You give 2 centers, you pay them low money, just like the Lakers did when they had JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, and you rotate. You don't pay for a starter center. This is where the Brooklyn Nets are going to be stuck at. They're about to give Nick Claxton so much money, and he doesn't deserve it. You go get centers by committee, get a power forward center by committee, and play rotation like that for the low. And then you still got Kyrie. Hopefully Kyrie signs back. He's going to test the market as he should. The 2 teams interested, Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers. So we'll see how that goes in the offseason. But yeah, I just don't see the Mavericks making it. They play right now. They play the Sacramento Kings, who is a hot team. So let's see. If they lose tonight against the Kings at home, sayonara, they're going to rest Luka and Kyrie.
Well, if OKC doesn't win another game, they could win 2 out of their last 3 and clinch it.
The only thing I would say about if the Mavericks lose tonight, their mindset is going to be, let's just get the 10th seed, because if you don't get 10th seed, their pick goes to
right.
If they lose tonight, they're just going to be like, pack it in, let's try to aim for that 10th seed. So that would be their mindset.
I mean, they're gonna win the last game of the year against San Antonio. They play at home tonight. They're playing Sacramento as we speak. They play Chicago, and San Antonio, all at home. I think they win 2 out of 3 they're in.
Right, but they can't tie with OKC because OKC has the tiebreaker. So they got to, and OKC also holds the tiebreaker over Utah. So who does Oklahoma City have?
OKC has Utah on the road, and let's see what the other thing is here.
I think they have another tough game too.
Yeah, they're not easy. Okay, they have. I'll tell you right now. OKC has. So they have at Utah, and then at home against Memphis.
Well, depending on whether Memphis is motivated to win that game,
so that's tough.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not looking good right now, especially because they basically have to. They have to not just make up.
You got to win out.
Yeah, pretty much.
I agree. I think Dallas has to win out.
Yeah, you have to win out.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. So the next question is: there's a massive logjam in the West. 5 teams. The Warriors, Lakers, Clippers, Pelicans, and Timberwolves are all vying for the number 5 and 6 seeds, thus avoiding the play-in round. Those 5 have either 2 or 3 games left to play. Ultimately, the 5th seed will play the Suns in the playoffs, who now have a healthy Kevin Durant, while the 6th seed will play the Kings, who have disqualified for the playoffs for the first time since Nixon was president. So do you think it's possible that any of these teams will take a late season dive to avoid playing Phoenix, or is that too risky?
I don't think so.
Right
now it's Golden State and Phoenix. Looks like it's going to be that matchup as if their season was to end today. I don't see anybody taking a dive.
Yeah, not with the uncertainty that is the play-in tournament. I just would be like, if I'm the 6th seed, I'm the 6th seed, and I take it on the chin. And I mean, I would be scared of a healthy Suns team, but I'm not. I already can't stand the play-in tournament, so I would not want to have to go into a situation where now I'd rather take my chances in a 7-game series than a potential like 1-game series.
Right.
That's just that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I think that's. What do you think, Doc?
Yeah, it's hard to avoid. Everybody's so close that it's hard to even avoid someone, It's like it's too close to avoid who to play. So, yeah, you don't want to play the Suns, but you shouldn't be scared to play the Suns. And, everybody wants to play the Kings, but it's like, the Kings been a hot team. I always say when a team been hot the whole year and good, you still don't. This is because they back in the, we think they're not going to be good in the playoffs. You still don't want to play a team that's been together all year. You rather play the Suns, in my opinion, because they're a new team. And the Suns haven't really, even when KD, they haven't beat nobody yet. If you look at I think the hardest team they played was Chicago Bulls. So they haven't played any competition or really been through wars together with KD. So we don't know yet. So I wouldn't be scared to play the Suns. And, Sacramento and Kings is not going to be an easy out regardless. It may be, I think it'll be a good series for a team like the Lakers, because, I don't want the Lakers may want to play them, stay close in California. But, I just think you just play it through and see what happens. You got to go into the mindset that you could beat any team. Definitely from four to, honestly, to me, from 4 all the way down to 9. Those teams all year have been up and down. So you never know what can happen. Like I said last week, one injury away could change the series.
Right. Biggest question of the whole year, the whole playoffs, is how Andrew Wiggins comes back.
Right, which is our next topic. So looking through of all the players that are currently injured, and I'll list them off. Andrew Wiggins, Paul George, Zaire Williams, and Steven Adams of Memphis, Jalen Noel, Naz Reid of Minnesota, Jose Alvarado, Zion Williamson, New Orleans, Julius Randle, and Gary Trent, and Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen of the Bucks. Out of all that group, they're all currently sidelined. Who do we know won't be ready for the playoffs, and what kind of impact will that have? Drew, I'll start with you with Andrew Wiggins. What are you hearing on him?
I mean, from what I've heard is that the situation surrounding his father's health, which is obviously a scary thing. The loss of a loved one or the potential loss of a loved one, I'm sure weighs heavily on anybody, superstar athletes included. The good news is that it wasn't like an injury or a medical thing. Like physically, he has been working out by all reports. He's rejoined the team. I was just reading something saying that he's not going to play these last couple of games. He's out. He's not playing in the regular season. Wiggins is probably the biggest X factor out of this bunch when you think about it, because we saw when Andrew Wiggins is engaged with this Warriors team, we saw what their ceiling could be. Will he be is the question. Is he mentally going to be ready? Has he been staying in enough shape to where he's going to be able to come in and start absorbing meaningful minutes right away? It is the playoffs, rotations shrink. Same thing with some of these other sorry, no, he's not on there. I thought Gary Payton was on there for a second. But yeah.
It's Gary Trent.
Yeah, Wiggins is probably the biggest X factor because, obviously Paul George, Julius Randle are more on that all-star caliber. They probably mean more to their team in terms of their star power. But the Warriors with an engaged and healthy Andrew Wiggins could win a championship. I don't think Julius Randle makes the Knicks contenders per se. So
and George is going to miss 2 more weeks.
Yeah, I think George and Naz Reid are the 2 for sure that I know are probably going to.
Yeah, I know Reid. I think Reid's going to miss all the playoffs.
Yeah, he'd only come back if they made a championship run, which
right. Everybody else is kind of iffy. Yeah. So who else on this list, Doc, are we worried about? I think the guy that really stands out is Zion, though the combination of Connaughton and Allen is a little scary in terms of outside shooting for the Bucks.
Yeah, but they kind of replace them with Jay Crowder acquisition. So I think Jay Crowder will get more minutes in the playoffs anyway. But Allen going to come back. Allen's going to come back. I don't think Connaughton will even get minutes. One of them definitely will come back in probably in the second round. They're not going to come back in the first round. They're not going to need them for the first round. Second round, they'll probably come back when they play against the Knicks or the Cavaliers. Zion is ready to play. He just doesn't want to play. It's all he doesn't want to come back because it's just Zion. He never want to be in New Orleans anyway. Ben was cleared to play in the game, but the Pelicans always protect him. Like they had the biggest baby. They don't want him. They want to be so happy that they don't want him to, when free agency comes, he just leaves them. I think but Zion's ready to come back. He could play if he wants to, but Zion only wants to come back until he's 100%. Nobody's 100% Zion. He's about to start. Come back and be with your team. They about to miss. The Pelicans, before injuries, was a top team in the West. Now they in the play-in, and it's really Zion's fault because Brandon Ingram been playing with injuries all year. Brandon Ingram been getting injured. He said, "Listen, I'm just gonna come back and try to play." Zion not even trying to come back and play with injuries. See, back in the early 2000s, guys used to always have injuries and still play.
Oh yeah.
Guys today don't want to play with nothing. If they wake up with a little cramp, they done. They don't want to play. And that's Zion. Zion is not injured anymore. Okay, he's fine. He could come back and play. He just doesn't want to come back and play. Okay, Zion the type when he takes too long of a break, he gets bloated. He don't want everybody to see that he's bloated because what happened last time. People saw him. He was a laughing stock for a couple of weeks. He had to lose that weight. He has weight problems, so he doesn't want to embarrass himself. But Zion's ready to play. I expect Zion to force himself to play in the play-in. Zion, I don't know why he doesn't want to play. He just steps on the court and get you 15 or 20 points, which will help Pelicans. So I don't know why he doesn't trust his ability just to come in and play. Paul George usually play with injuries. So I expect him to come back when the Pelicans need him.
Russ has actually been stepping up in his absence.
Yeah, Russ been stepping up, but Russ kind of like Kyrie, man. It's an accident waiting to happen, right? And they kind of like bad luck players, man. I don't know. Every time you think they're looking good, out of nowhere, it's like, oh boy, here they go. So we'll see.
And the Knicks have been playing well without Randall.
They've been playing very well, but they definitely going to need Randall's going to have to. Last time the Knicks in the playoffs, Randall disappeared. He didn't do nothing versus the Hawks when Trae Young was killing them, making a laughingstock out of them in the Garden. Randall has to come back to redeem that playoff year. When he was on fire that whole year, made All-Star, then the playoffs shrunk. So he got to come back for himself and for the Knicks fan base. He got help now with Brunson. So I think Randall definitely should come back for the playoffs because you're going to need him. You're not going to be able to beat Cleveland Cavaliers with just R.J. Barrett and Jalen Brunson.
Right.
So Randall has to come back.
Right.
Last thing, all these players got an extra week because of the play-in. So
right.
Got a play-in team. You got a whole extra week. So this is paradise.
That's another motivation. That's another motivation to avoid the play-in game if you got some guys banged up.
Steven Adams from Memphis, I think, is huge. He's supposed to be reevaluated at the end of the week. I think he brings just that physical nature a team like that needs. I think he's huge.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And when did you say he's coming back, Booney?
He's being reevaluated. He had surgery about less than a month ago, about 3.5 weeks ago, and he's going to be reevaluated. I believe just at the end of the regular season.
Okay. All right. So he could be back. All right. And like Doc just said, they will definitely have the extra week because they're not going to be in the play-in. All right. Do we have any more NBA thoughts before we wrap this up?
I think the defense is going to pick up.
The defense definitely going to pick up. Shout out to Mbappe for sending me this from France. I appreciate this.
Who sent it to you?
Tech. Yep. France Nike Tech. He sent it to me. Appreciate it. Mbappe. Mbappe. Come on. The soccer star.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
That is big time.
Okay, I lied.
Stuck with it, man.
Nike sent it to me, but not Mbappe.
It's a belated April Fool's joke from Doc. So
hey, they got me on that April Fool's joke with the Spurs. I tell you, I got suckered at first until I read that. I got pissed. I'm not gonna lie. Hey, they got me.
Let them know.
Whatever
Let them
rule
know
that
what
was,
happened.
they got me.
I think that was Cam Real.
Yeah.
So Doc, was your birthday the other day? Because we get confused.
My birthday was April 3rd. Yeah.
Happy birthday, D.
All right.
Happy
Happy
birthday, Doc.
birthday, Doc. Happy birthday.
Appreciate it.
So are you now 27, 28?
Yeah.
All righty. Congratulations. Happy birthday, my friend. All righty. So we're gonna wrap the show up, folks. Thanks for all the questions this week. Appreciate that. And if you'd like to send us a question, please email it to admin@hoopsprospects.com. We also take questions via social media on Twitter @hoopsprospects, on Instagram @thehoopsprospects, and on Facebook @hoopspros. And if you ever miss an episode, you can get caught up at hoopsprospects.com. And yes, we will continue to take emails from anyone named Ralph. So, as always, I want to thank all of our listeners. I want to thank our special guest, Cam Shelton. He was a pleasure. What a great kid. And we will be back next week. And we're going to be talking 85%, maybe 90% NBA for our NBA playoff special. We're going to be talking, making our predictions for the playoffs. Maybe even get a little contest like we do for college. Keep track of our predictions. So that should be fun. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
The
Go
repeat
Dubs.
starts today. Go Dubs.
Go
Thank
Dubs.
you. Go Dubs.
Go Dubs.
Go Dubs.
Well, and be MVP. That's all. He finally got
Hey.
that award.
I had him beat as my MVP
You did.
bid. MVP bid. Look it up. And
You
I had
did.
Joel
You
coming
did.
in.
It's there in our fearless forecast. All right, folks. We will see you next week. Thank you, gentlemen. Great job as